Yeah.
It was more of a case of this is something that would be involved in my job, therefore it's okay to have it on my line of research. He was a researcher at university, so it's kind of like
I mean,
absolutely normal.
That's exactly it. It's an entirely normal part of human existence. So why is it still stigmatized in 2022? Let's just normalize it and move on, sort of thing.
Which is a very good point. Yeah, it's like, what does it matter? Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It's like that Terry Pratchett with his if you could say, if it's for a project, you pretty much get away with anything.
Absolutely, stick out the shelf behind the. I mean, just have to check if there's anything
behind you. Yeah, just check what's behind you.
I strategically placed a couple of items just in case, but because this is the cleanest it's ever been.
It's a very tidy workshop.
You can't see behind you.
I was going to say, is it just all here. Been moved?
Staring at multiple Gorilla Glues from Maker Central.
We had a selection.
I've seen a cartoon where there's kind of somebody's kind of, I think it's something like a university student, and they're on a kind of a FaceTime chat, Zoom chat with parents, and you can kind of sort of see this kind of very nice and tidy room. It's kind of all nicely lit up, and then it's all tidy, it's nicely steep, and then the rest of the room is just chaos, clothes all over the floor, folders and books just cast aside, mess,
just like the field of vision.
Plates. Yeah.
I mean, you guys get a beautifully curated view of my, kind of mess behind me, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. This kind of mess is all around the room. I don't.
Well, I know where everything is. Roughly. I mean, occasionally I find things, and go like, "What was that for?" And I can't remember. There had a big thing. I'll definitely keep that, and then lose it, and then don't remember what it was for. I mean, the computer's sitting on a sheet of steel that I stole from Skip. I can't remember what I wanted to do with that.
Salvaged, I think is the word you meant there.
Salvaged, yes. Rehomed.
See, I thought it's an ethical quandary, isn't it? Because strictly speaking, if the person's thrown it out because they don't want it anymore, but it is still legally owned by them until the skip driver takes it away.
And then it's owned by the skip company.
Yeah, so strictly speaking, you are supposed to, if you're about to lift something out of a skip, you are supposed to ask the...
Well, on the whole, I do ask most of the times, but it depends. Like
sometimes you just got to be there.
If there's no one there, you think like they're not going to miss 2 bricks, and I needed 2 bricks at the time.
That bath isn't going to hold water. We'll have it.
Yes. Good old
there's also the element of you helping them out, because particularly if the skip is maybe
creating more
on the full
space
side.
on the skip.
Yeah, if you can't really send a skip that's overflowing, you're only supposed to fill up to the line.
Yes.
Ignore that. Mm-hmm. So if you're removing some items, you're making it so they're not going to get fined or charged extra by the company.
Well, as I said, with what I used to do a lot more pallet wood projects. I always used to ask, like, "Oh, it's all right if could I take that pallet out?" And they look at me like, "Shut up, just go, take it. Stop wasting my time. It's rubbish."
We've got there's a tiny little industrial. Well, there's a couple actually. A little industrial estate in the village, and one of the companies there is actually kind of in the car. There's a car park before the estate. There's quite a few companies within the estate, probably 5 or 6. And one of the companies has actually put up a little sign saying free pallets now. And in sort of the edge of the car park, and every now and again you see sort of between 1 and sort of 8 pallets just stacked up. And they're normally gone within half a day.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky because my uncle works in a storage place, and so people often leave pallets in there when they take all their stuff out, leave a load of pallets, and I get phone calls quite frequently, like, "Oh, do you want any pallets?" I was like, "Oh, how many are you talking about?" It's like, "Well, 30 or 40." It's like 2, maybe.
It's when I see stacks of pallets that I kind of wish that I had a bigger workshop and B, a van.
Oh, yes. And one of those air nail remover things.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I want one of those just for fun.
I have thought a couple of times that there was a while. When I first discovered them, they were really, really difficult to get in the UK.
Yeah,
and you could get them from the States, but the kind of the import costs were as much as the device itself.
Yes.
But I have seen them now. I'm pretty sure you can get them through like Amazon.
I've seen, I can't remember who there's a couple of people like MTE Pallets, I think it is. They're local to us, and I think he's got one of those things. And his store of pallet wood is immense, but it's organized, and it's all beautiful stuff that he's managed to get. Hardwood included. I've never found a hardwood pallet.
Know me.
Apparently, they exist.
I think they're more of a other side of the puddle thing, don't they?
Yeah, they do get a lot. I mean, I've heard that if you get things like gardening supplies, not gardening supplies, garden decoration type things like benches or fancy pots, a lot of those are made kind of in India and that kind of sort of region.
Yeah.
And they don't have pine as a cheap resource.
Of course not. No.
So
I suppose if it's something very heavy as well,
yes,
it might.
You want something heavy and something that's come from kind of far away, and not something that's just been in boxes.
Yeah, someone told me they make pallets out of like Purple Heart out there in the States, just like this old thing. I'll just use that to cut something around.
I think in the States, particularly, there is kind of almost a regionality to certain woods. So you hear people in some regions, that walnut is kind of. I mean, like for us, walnut is kind of a quite prestigious wood. It's quite expensive, and there are certain parts of the States where kind of using walnut, you keep that for your best stuff. And there's other places where people literally have walnut trees falling down in their back garden, and walnut is just firewood. It's scrapwood. It's firewood.
Yes. Yeah. Oh.
And the price variation across the country for the same wood is huge.
We just have the beloved bramble. It's our kind of equivalent, isn't it? Of just
if only we could make brambles.
We should be able to utilize them better. That would be we'd be rich. Brambles.
Yeah, can you imagine if we did that sort of thing of like?
I blackberry. I love blackberries. Blackberry apple crumble. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brambles
I wonder
and
if we could, shred them and do what they do with was it not cane?
Like make rope out of it or something.
Yeah, sort of like they bond them with resin, and it's I think it's cane. Like literally like it'll come back to me in a bit. Bamboo, that's the word.
Yeah. I was going to say rattan then.
Yeah, but surely with enough resin, you could put anything in it, couldn't you? Just
yeah, true.
Yeah, enough resin can do anything. Yeah. Yeah, I think. I mean,
do we have
some of the? I was going to say some of the brambles we've got around. I mean, we've got brambles in our garden that thicker than my little finger. In fact, I've seen some that probably as thick as my thumb. And
vicious.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And when I was caretaking, they were all around the schoolyard, and we had to sort of try and clear all of the things that had fallen into the brambles, and there was like some sort of old climbing frame, and the way this had entwined around it was like you can keep that. I'm not going in there.
It's become one with nature again.
It is, yes. It's just like osmosis. It just ate the thing. It turned into some sort of climbing frame bramble hybrid. Yeah, terrifying.
I do love those kind of things where you see like a tree growing around something, like an old,
the bike. There's a bike and there's a few cars and.
Yeah, exactly. Where you just get the tree just sort of enveloping it as it's growing up and things.
Yeah, the chain link fence, and it just sort of, you can see it oozing out, but then eventually it's just absorbed it.
It's consumed.
We had not long after we got married, we acquired my wife and I we acquired an allotment. We kind of put our names down because our first house that we bought together, our first house had. After we were married, had kind of a tiny little garden. But then when we bought a house, it didn't have a garden. It had 7 meters by 1.5 meters of concrete. And that's all it had. So we wanted to grow some stuff. So we put our name down and we got a list. I think we waited about 7 or 8 months, which wasn't very long before.
No, that's not long at all.
And so we went along to this allotment, and they hadn't cleared it. Half of it was just covered in brambles. It took us about a month just to clear the brambles off.
Yeah.
And we planted a few things. We did a bit of digging. We planted a few things, and then we'd gone on holiday the following summer, and we came back, and everything had disappeared. There were weeds everywhere. It was just like we'd gone away, and kind of somebody kind of magically made weeds appear.
Yeah, it's
And
tough work.
Yeah, we
Sure,
just
back to the right allotment.
yeah. We had. Well, I know we had, because initially just before we
the only
basically
one without any
turned up,
brambles.
and we were like, we turned up and we were like, and we were just fed up with it, and we just saying, right, we've put in so much effort and we've lost everything. But we had planted quite a lot of potatoes, and just kind of as a random kind of sort of thing, I put the fork in the ground where the potatoes had been, turned it over, and there were some potatoes.
Oh no,
they were only baby ones. Yeah, they were only baby ones. All the tops had gone. The tops completely disappeared. There was just weeds everywhere.
Secret potato.
But we dug out about 3 or 4 carrier bags worth of potatoes. Literally almost busting. So we had these gorgeous, they were gorgeous potatoes. They're baby potatoes. So they nothing huge. But it was just like, that was it. And we said that, right, that's it. Done.
Oh,
Got
yeah, you gave.
and we're out. We gave it
I had mine. Well, I'm still technically the owner of my plot. I've had it about 8 years, but the last 2 have been a struggle in terms of enthusiasm and time, I suppose, because I'd rather try to do more things in here. But it was very rewarding the first time, and it was amazing what came out. But yeah, so 8 years later, I'm kind of tired of handed over to someone else now, because you basically take on a co-worker, and then they can take on the plot after a year. It's a way of sort of cheating the system a little bit, because it's up to a 4-year waiting list now in our area.
Wow.
I think allotments used to be much more of a thing. I mean, I believe, I may be wrong, I'm sure a historian will correct me, there was some sort of law after World War II that basically made it that councils had to provide allotments.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But I think that kind of law may have either it's disappeared or it's basically just kind of been forgotten.
Faded away.
And fewer people wanted them.
To keep up with.
And developers just bought up the land.
Housing.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, like, we're quite a built-up area, so like the more houses they're building, there's not a lot of gardens. Well, there's not many new gardens, so.
Yeah.
They measured them in rods. Did you know how many rods or what a rod is?
I used to.
No,
there's a bunch of those, isn't there? There's rods and there's chains and there's all the various different.
Yeah, I can't even think back from my surveying days.
Yeah, well, I'll tell him.
We just very quickly just went to lasers.
Meters, I understand maybe, but rods is like, oh, it's like a millionth of a furlong. I was like, oh, okay, or 27 fish. I don't know.
Yeah, if you go to the full gamut of those measurements, it's bizarre. Some of the
57 big toes of an average height, average weight man in his 30s. Yeah.
Well, some of it was based on things like the king.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what the foot was.
Yeah,
it's the length of the king's foot.
Oh, is that why it's imperial?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Just
Makes
did a brain
sense.
thing.
And there's things like hands as well for horses.
Yeah.
The hand is kind of defined by it was literally kind of people doing that to hand over hand to.
That's not bad. I'd rather be measured in hands. I think it'd be a bit better for me.
I mean, there's a joke in there about the size of the person's hand and making things look bigger.
Yeah,
I'll leave that one.
I think one of the problems for us with the allotment was that we had to drive there, and it was a good sort of 10 or 15 minute drive, depending on the traffic, in order to get to the allotment. And I think certainly some friends of ours who live in Bristol. The house that they first had in Bristol, their allotment was literally 2-minute walk down the road. That was the allotment gate. And so for them, the allotment, they were very successful with the allotment because they could get there every day, multiple times a day if they wanted. If they wanted, they could literally go, oh, we haven't got any courgette for dinner, and send one of the kids running down to the allotment.
I'm going to the outdoor fridge.
Yeah.
Running down to the allotment with a pair of scissors just to select the courgette.
I suppose
Walking
it's
with
the
the scissors,
same
of
theory
course.
about going to the gym, isn't it? If you, not that I go to the gym, but all the friends that do go to the gym, they say, well, if you're going to go to one, get one that's close to you.
Hmm.
I was like, well, surely you should run to it, shouldn't you? It's like, no, you won't want to.
No.
Or near work.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Is we've had that where, in the before times, my mate and I used to train at a gym that was basically on our way back from work, so we could get changed, get ready at work, call in on the way back in, and then it was just the drive on home. Whereas like now, for me to go to that gym, it's an 8-mile drive.
Ooh.
So it's not really worth me doing that gym. I mean, granted, there are others in the area that I still haven't signed up for much.
I think that's a key thing. I mean, I'm waiting on a phone call tomorrow from the lady who teaches Pilates in the village, because basically I had a chat with the doctor.
No, I'm okay.
Before last, who basically said, yeah, some exercise probably would help you. I was like, yeah, I know. It's like, what I don't want to do, because the worst thing, I used to do Pilates in town, but that's a 20-minute drive. And
Driving's not good for you.
Driving's really not good for me. So any benefit I might have from actually kind of doing the Pilates would be destroyed by the drive there and the drive back. And it's not like kind of, I could do it on the way to work or something, because, I
can you Pilates in
really
the car? I don't
I
really know.
I can have a pie and I can have a pie and a latte if I go through the right drive-in. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think pie and latte is what they're actually going for.
Yeah, anyway, I'm hoping.
You could Pilates the car there, couldn't you?
Yeah. Something like
that. Pilot it there.
Anyway, I'm hoping I can do one within walking distance in the village hall. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
So that could be interesting. But it depends on whether she feels that she's able to take on somebody with some of my medical issues. Or failing.
Is that one of those delicate phone calls where you say, are you happy to take on a problem case?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of hoping. I mean, Joe. I think pretty sure it was Joe Pilates that actually designed the kind of the program of exercise to help recover from a back injury, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So about 100 years ago, if I also remember correctly.
Did you know him well?
Yeah, he was a bit of a snob.
So I had to get that in, otherwise everyone in the chat would have been upset.
Yeah. Basically, when you disappeared off to in the pre-chat, Darren, we did comment about how tidy the workshop is. It's,
it's a bit of effort. I think after Maker Central, I felt a bit motivated and I kind of got on top of it. There is some bigger plans, really. Well, there's always bigger plans, isn't there? But you're currently in the space that should have a chop saw in it. But since I upgraded from the Evolution to the Hikoki, which is a much better saw, but it's got a wider footprint, it just sort of dangles over the edge. So that's something I have to sort at some point. But yeah, it's I can't remember the exact measurements. It's about 2.5 by 4 meters. And I'm quite short, so I've got some ceiling space. I think Duncan came here once.
Forget about that.
And he could, he struggled.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. If he ever comes to the Tinkerage, he's gonna have to duck.
Stand outside. that's the approach I'd need to take.
Yeah, he'll be hunchback just to get in the door. Never mind.
So talking about we took my mother-in-law for a sort of a drive and then stopped at a pub last week, and my wife and I wandered in to go and get the drinks, and it was old pub in a it's like a thatched roof and everything, and arse end of nowhere, and there was 2 drop beams in between the kind of the corridor running through and where the bar area is. My wife just sort of wanders through, and I noticed the beam, and I was like, I'll definitely need to duck under that because it's kind of my eyebrow height. So ducked under the beam and then went to stand up and then couldn't in the kind of the 2 meter length between the two beams. And the whole ceiling was not too much higher than the beams. So you basically had to like walk for like 2.5 meters, like ducked over to one side and then back with the drinks.
There used to be a nightclub near us like that. It was called Scandals. It was in the basement around the Southsea area, but it's never bothered me. But most of my friends are taller than me. And the first time I took them there, I just heard the dunk. I turned around, 2 people on the floor.
Yeah, there's some advantages to being short. Yeah.
Some advantages, yes, yeah. Nobody asked me to reach for anything. Can you get that from that shelf? No.
Well, not even off the floor.
Yeah. Get that one.
At that kind of that midsection where you're not asked to reach the low down stuff or the high up stuff.
Yes, like just magazines, good magazines, the right kind of magazines. I'll stop.
Stop digging that hole.
Yes.
First time I went skiing, there was this very distinctive ski instructor, French guy, very short, and all the ski instructors, of course, wear their kind of the ski school ski wear, so they're always very distinctive. And I'd called into a sort of bookshop, magazine sort of shop, corner store type place, and there was this very distinctive, very short ski instructor stood on a set of steps so he could get to the top shelf magazines. So he was clearly irregular because they had a set of steps for him.
So like Cassanunder the dwarf used to this world's romantic dwarf, but used to carry his own stepladder around to flirt with the people.
Genius. Have you seen that art piece a few years ago now? But I can't remember who it was by, but the whole premise of it was a group of people that he'd invited to basically all have a conversation. And what he'd done is taken their heights and then made them all stilts at specific heights that would allow them to all be at eye level for conversation.
Oh.
So you've then got sort of 20, 30 people in this room, all wearing these, I think they're like bright blue stilts. Like the kind that your kids would get. So they just kind of strap to your shoes and just kind of make your shoes taller. But then you just had this group of people who were all at exactly the same height, so they could have face-to-face conversations with whomever they were chatting to.
Oh, I wonder how people reacted to that. Like, I mean, like, because I have an issue with eye contact. It's all right for a camera. I very rarely look people in the eye when I'm talking to them. I tend to focus on their left ear. But I imagine
I'll go for the mouth.
That would make me.
I tend to look at the mouth as well for lip reading.
Oh yes, that's increasing over years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just loud gigs and things. You just get so used to going, what? So writing on your phone or lip reading. But yeah, that's exactly. It's a really good point. That it's got to be a blessing and a curse in that sense for some people.
Yes, yeah. I mean, same with Zoom. I used to hate face-to-face meetings, but Zoom sort of added a little bit of a barrier to that, removed some of that social awkwardness with eye contact, because I'm not looking at a face, I'm looking at a tiny little dot. So got a bit more confident using these sort of things, which is that was also sort of overcoming techno fear as well. So it's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
But I used to do Amdram quite a lot when I was not that long ago. But I could stand on stage, pratfall and tell jokes and do all those things, but it was because I didn't have to look at anyone's faces because of the lights.
Of course. I
was like, I can't see you, and if I can see you, I won't look at you.
For the benefits of our American listeners and other parts of the world, Amdram is amateur dramatics.
Yes.
So it's kind of your local theatre groups.
It's amateur by name. We take it very seriously.
Non-professional dramatics.
Yes, yeah. I mean, well, because I used to enjoy doing the pantos basically because there's a lot of leeway for things going wrong there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, panto again. That's a very British thing, isn't it? Pantos.
Yeah. Oh, no,
Yes,
it
I'm
isn't.
not sure if that's crossed the pond or not. A panto.
I have no idea.
That'd
Perhaps
be
some of our
interesting to
American
know.
listeners can reach out and tell us. Do they understand the idea of panto, or to give its full name, a pantomime?
Pantomime. Probably the last one was Naked Gun.
Yeah.
33 and a third.
I think there is an element to that, though, isn't there? If you can't see the audience, I've done a few things on stage, and it's like if you've got the lights on you, yeah, you can't see people, and so it does make it a lot easier. It's harder, I think, if you do then something like an assembly in a school, because generally they don't have lights down in the kind of the and lights on the stage, because who knows what the kids would get up to.
Yeah, I
trouble
recommend
with
anyone
it.
that can do that. My wife's a teacher, and I went to go see her do an assembly once, and I was just sort of blown away how she just held their attention and spoke like off the cuff as well. Because I mean, doing the things on stage is completely different because I had a script, and everyone's like, "Oh, do you go do some improv stuff?" I was like, "No, I can't make things up. I've got to read what's in front of me." Yeah.
It's interesting, actually. We've just had a comment from the audience. Andy has just said he doesn't think there is panto in the US.
Yeah, I wonder if there is an equivalent, but just under a different name and perhaps less silly, maybe. Yeah. Well, maybe that is the key to panto, is just the silliness of it. Very.
Oh, no, it isn't.
It is basically the same jokes, just dressed up in different costumes, isn't it? Really?
Different dresses,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and the traditions that sort of stem from Shakespearean time. Like, because my wife still doesn't really get why the like the panto lead is usually a girl playing a dude.
And there's always a dame.
There's a dude,
right? The dames are usually men dressed up. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the one of the best lines I ever saw. A lot of my family been doing acting and stuff, so I sort of grew up around a lot of theatre and panto and that kind of stuff. And I think it was it might have been like a Aladdin or Cinderella or one of those, and there was the dame, you know, the usual typical washerwoman type, and it broke into "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," but it was "Don't Cry for Me, I'm the cleaner," and it just stuck with me beautifully from being, you know, kind of in my formative years. It's just this line that's just burned into my head.
Yes. There's some. I mean, I love panto. I love the sort of cheesy dad joke stuff. So I always try to add more of them if I can when we were doing them. But it's been about 5 years since I've done one last. I think that's probably something I wouldn't mind getting back into again. If anything, just for the mental exercise.
Yeah,
of course.
We had until the human malware. We had an annual Christmas panto in the village, put on in the village hall, written by one of the villagers. They'd run it for like 30 years. Mostly the WI, the Women's Institute, sort of, and drag a few other kind of people in. They've stopped, and the person who for the last, well, I mean, we've been here now 13 years. We saw like 10 of them, and the same person had written them and had been writing them before that, and I think they got a bit tired of coming up with something every year, and it was a lot of work and directing people, and so even though kind of we could now have it, they've stopped it. They've knocked on his head. It's a bit of a shame because I quite like to maybe get into the kind of the making the prop side of things.
Yeah, that's one of the things
to do.
that I enjoyed, the set building. I mean, because everyone thinks, "Oh, I don't want to go on stage. I can't possibly do it." Well, you don't have to. There's sound, there's lights, there's prop, all the costumes and things like that. Just literally moving stuff around, which is what I had to do before I really got to do anything anyway. But yeah, I mean, also, I mean, just the sort of community spirit of it all. Everyone, like, no one really there is like, like a professional theatre person. So it's like, oh, I think this goes like that. Do you think that goes like that? I say, like, let's just do that and
close
see
enough.
how it works.
We'll have a go. Yeah. If no one falls off the stage, that'll do.
Did everyone survive? Yes. Okay, we'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, one of my bosses does a lot of Amdram stuff, and she's been sort of doing some behind the scenes stuff as well as on stage stuff and things. And a couple of us in the office are kind of quite handy and stuff. So we ended up making a I forget what play it was. I think it was something vaguely Arthurian. So there was a 6-foot round table that needed making. But it had to get in and out of the place. It had to fold up. It might have even been 8 foot. Huge. But the idea was it had to go on someone's back. So it had to be light enough to wear, fully opened up, but it had to fold up enough to be able to get in and out and store it and all that stuff.
Some of the things are clever the way that we used to have a lot of
pop-up
stages. So like they painted all on cardboard, and basically there'd be two leaves on the platform, and they'd open up one way to get a little pop-up scene in the background for the other, and then they could do it again on the other. So you get like 4 scenes for the price of one. This is saves a lot of hassle.
Yeah,
carting stuff on and off stage and things. Yeah.
I mean, that's just except that's the kind of the run of the mill sort of stuff that Dominic, who was on before.
Yes, some of the stuff he does is immense.
I also find it quite fascinating, actually, how some of the stuff that's made is completely and utterly false. It's just, you get the sort of the trompe-l'oeil type sort of drawings where something looks quite real and 3-dimensional, but actually it's just painted. And then you've got things that are kind of oversized or undersized, or they've got things that are made from collapsible things. And it's just amazing how people put them together.
Yeah, we had I think I remember thinking, how were they going to do this? We did Pinocchio, and I played Lampwick, basically Village Idiot, which is pretty much what I always did. But obviously there was the scene with the whale, and it was like, and it just says in the script like, oh yeah, boat gets eaten by a whale. I was like, but we're in the boat. How big is this whale going to be? And I thought my way of what I would have done was I would have made everyone into puppets and then had a slightly
scale the boat down and
but in the end what they did was they employed technology to his advantage, and basically one of the guys was brilliant with flash animation, and so he had this whole sequence with the whale and projected on in the background, and it just got closer and closer, and he could press buttons to make the seagulls do that, and like it would just swim backwards and forwards until he hit go, and then we would just plunge into darkness, and I was like, I would never have thought of doing that.
It's brilliant.
So when you were describing that, when you said that they employed, before you said the word technology, my head straight away jumped to like Session Whale to come in and pretend to hit the boat.
Tell him I can't, I'm doing Moby Dick.
Yeah. Someone at the backstage just keeps spraying him full of water just to keep him going.
Evian, yeah. I tell you what I really like. I don't go to theatre a lot, but what I really like, I've not been to like any big West End sort of type stuff, but I've been to quite a few times, the kind of little touring sort of things where literally everything's, you can almost fit it in the back of probably a Luton size van, a small box van, not even a huge truck. Everything's fitted inside a Luton truck, and there's a Luton truck and a car for the kind of 7 people, and they do everything.
Yeah,
they literally just go around, they get things out.
Have you heard of the Handlebars?
Handlebars, no.
They are a group of touring Shakespeare actors.
They're the ones to do on bikes.
They cycle around to the different places.
Yes.
So all of their stuff is just on bikes. It's super stripped down, and they basically just have like enough of costumes and like a couple of little bits of set dressing.
Yes,
and they'll
yeah.
just turn up to like a field and then just have like a group of people that they'll perform to and stuff.
Yeah,
I suppose it's
Again,
about
my boss would
storytelling,
say
isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, we saw one quite a few years ago called Shackleton's Cat, talking about it. Literally was from the point of view of the cat on Shackleton's endurance expedition,
Hmm.
and that was literally they had a rowing boat and a bunch of handheld props. That's literally all they had, and a couple of little bits of scenery, and it was done in like a village hall. It was done absolutely brilliant. And another one was Swallows and Amazons. And
Oh,
again,
yeah.
they didn't have much in the way of props. They had a slightly bigger rowing boat. Still a mast.
They had to have a boat in all of them, though.
Yeah, had to have a boat. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a thing with boats. But they had hardly any kit. There was 6 or 7 people, and you could literally see the same people kind of, they were taking on multiple roles. They were kind of, when there were some people on stage or center on stage, you'd see kind of somebody else sorting out some of the background sort of stuff to get the next bit ready. And it's just absolutely amazing. But it all boils back down to storytelling.
Yeah. So we went to. So we just come back from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Saw some amazing acts, but our favourite thing, my wife's favourite thing, so I had too many favourites, but we saw a one-man show doing all 7 seasons of Buffy in 70 minutes. And,
wow!
And
including the musical episode.
He did a little bit. Well, he had music in it. Like he composed his own songs. Basically the set wasn't important at all. It was just this one guy dressed as Spike telling the story from his point of view. And it's funny because it was great because he was as cynical as everyone watching Buffy. Kind of like, why doesn't anybody move? And he's got that kind of attitude. And but 70 minutes, he did it. He did the first season in 60 seconds or something like that. But yeah, and again, the only props really that made any difference is when he was Buffy and he'd put on a wig, or he'd take his jacket off to be Angel, then he put it back on to be Spike. But yeah, the storytelling is what made it.
Yeah, I can well imagine. That's awesome.
I think there's a kind of an art to sort of storytelling and being able to actually, it's a skill as well. It's a learnable skill, but I think there's an art to it, and people who can do it well kind of have it, but other people can learn it. And I think that's something that's forgotten. You mentioned about your wife, doing assemblies. I've known so many teachers over the years that would never do an assembly. They'll do anything to get out of an assembly. They'll do they're perfect, great teachers, do their 30 kids in their classroom.
Yeah.
But stand on stage or stand at the front of maybe 150, 250, 400, 1,000 people. Can't do it. Won't do it.
No.
And I've also seen people who will get up and they shouldn't. I've seen some really, really bad assemblies.
I think Tess taught me, or they were teaching storytelling at school, and it was the theory was basically if the kids can tell, say, Jack and the Beanstalk, if they can write Jack and the Beanstalk, or they could write 3 stories from memory, that's sort of like the scaffolding that provides them to make their own stories from that. And initially I thought, well, that's just copying, isn't it? But then actually no, you're just giving them the examples, because it's a bit like Chinese whispers in that they'll start using their own words and language to do it.
There's a fantastic little it's like a 3 or 4 part documentary thing done in like 10-minute chunks called Everything's a Remix, and it was done probably 10 years ago now, so that's well worth a watch, because that goes into that sort of thing of like how sort of film or TV or music, it's all drawing from other things. The original plot of Star Wars was based almost, there's like scene for scene in chunks of another entirely different film, and all these kind of things of the inspiration that we draw from to do our own derivative works. It's a really, really interesting little sort of documentary series.
I heard something on a podcast or several years ago now, and it's something I had seen before in a blog entry, probably 5 years before that. One of those couple of things that sort of sits in your brain but never really gets sort of absorbed. It was coming from almost like a film screenwriting type of angle, and basically suggested that and I may have the figures wrong, but there's essentially 7 stories, and all films can be narrowed down to one of those stories. So it's things like you get the hero gets the hero gets wrong, or the hero of the story loses in some way and then comes back. Rocky, for example.
Oh yes, yeah.
You've got all those kind of or Predator, and the hero comes back and wins the day. So a bunch of particularly action films tend to fall into that particular one. I can't remember the rest of them, but there's kind of essentially there's just these, might be 5, might be 7. It was not many. I'm sure it was a prime number.
Our good friend John D. Harvey has a lot to say about that, actually.
And so there's a lot of stories that essentially they are the same story. You're just changing slightly the type of character that it is in some way. Oh yeah, it's a soldier, then it's a boxer, then it's the cop, then it's but they're all the same story. But we don't mind because particularly action films, there's lots of explosions and bangs and things.
Yeah, but that's why you get. I suppose people try to break that mold. Is why you end up things with like Sharknado and. Like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I really like Twister and I really like Jaws, and if only there was a way.
I think some of that is a result of maybe some chemicals.
Maybe.
Well, I think the thing is, I think it's fair to say that you can break the mold with something like Sharknado, but it doesn't quite explain like Sharknado 2 and 3 and 27 and.
Yes, well, I think we were feeling the same way about The Flash. I don't know if anyone's seen the TV series. We watched quite a lot of them, but then the answer to everything is he just has to run faster, just a little bit faster than the last time.
I mean, yeah, I suppose that's par for the course on quite a few things, isn't it?
Take the classic 1980s A-Team. Yeah.
Oh.
Every episode was essentially exactly the same. There was a slight difference between who it was that was asking for help. Whether it was kind of they were being hounded out by drug runners or they were being attacked by the local bully and it was an extortion type thing. They would all end up in the same situation. A-Team would go in, the bad guys' henchmen would lock them up in a barn full of welders, JCB, bulldozer. Piles of corrugated iron thick enough to stop bullets, and just every possible material. Just everything they could do to
lots of unobtainium
and then they break out of the barn. Exactly the same story.
That was my favorite moment in the whole series, though. But like every episode was like, that's what I was living for.
Have you seen the Mythbusters episode where they did the A-Team special?
Oh no!
And they basically tackled all that kind of idea of basically just here is the situation, and Adam and Jamie had to basically make their own defensive weapons, offensive weapons, I suppose. But it was a really good episode of them just having a bash being the A-Team, basically.
Yeah. I mean, if I had more, I mean, I have a lot of things around, but I wouldn't be able to do much damage without a really, really long cable.
You just need something to throw your hammers.
Yes, that's it. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we could just make a trebuchet out of
an angle grinder and then a load of hammers.
Maybe out the drill. Yeah,
trebuchet would be good.
No, I'd have to know how to make a trebuchet, but that's by the by.
Least of your worries.
It's just a big length of wood with some nails sticking out the end of it. Or if you haven't got nail screws.
Classic. Yeah. Yes. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
KISS principle.
I'm going to try and not think about the things that I could make with some of the stuff I've got in my shed. Yeah.
Bits of broken
Yes,
machinery
well,
and stuff
they're
that you haven't used for 20 years.
They're all dangerous. Most of pretty much everything's dangerous, or it's at least tried to bite me, or a couple of things have successfully bitten me. Table saw.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you
included, you
could just get your adversaries to try and like change the table saw blade or something.
Oh, that's it. I'll just say, come and make a box, but I won't tell them like all the safety stuff.
Fold this bandsaw blade.
Yes.
Your workshop is the defense. Just get them to come and work in it for a bit.
Oh yeah, brilliant. I won't even tidy. They'll be dead within a minute.
Cut off this bit of metal with the angle grinder, please. No, I've just taken the guard off to put it over there.
Yeah, I'm cleaning it.
Yeah.
I can't remember which video it was. I was watching I was doing a bit of catch up on some videos this afternoon, and I was watching a Adam Savage video, and I can't remember which one it was. One of the recent ones, and he was talking about how something was, was and it was that's what it was. It was the recent one he did, which was showing off the rubber Lee Enfield rifle from Dunkirk. So it was a show and tell. I was talking about how this thing was completely harmless. You couldn't hurt anyone with it. And then he made a comment about how he probably shouldn't say that. J.D. Heinemann always used to say he could kill, given enough time, he could kill somebody with a sewing needle.
Oh, yeah. That's an awful lot of intent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another avenue, isn't it? Have you seen the I want to say Korean, maybe? But the guys who's the assassins, trained assassins who use sewing needles, and they throw them.
Oh, yeah.
And they do a lot of demonstrations with it, with like plate glass windows, with a balloon behind the window, and they throw the needle through the glass, put the balloon.
Wow,
it is ridiculous.
That's
incredibly
superhero level stuff.
Trained and accurate. Yeah, it's.
There are scary people around.
Yeah, scary is the word I was going to go for.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's a very thin line between genius and maniac, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope to get back onto the right side of that line one time.
Yeah, I was having that conversation the other day with somebody that kind of along the lines of knowing somebody that doesn't have to make any fuss because they know they're always the most dangerous person in the room. Yeah, and then they'd have to be loud. Yeah, and often the loud people aren't the most dangerous people in the room.
It's just anyone who's got quick access, if lactose intolerant, got quick access to a tub of ice cream. Often the most dangerous person in any room.
Oh, God.
If it's good enough for Big Bang Theory, it's good enough for us.
I would not have never watched it.
Oh,
I've never watched it.
There's a debate about that, I'm sure. I did watch it. It was easy to watch, so I can't complain. It filled the time.
I stopped watching after all the intelligent jokes had been done, and then they just stopped doing them.
Yeah. I said, they're all married now. Don't worry. I'm bored.
I never got into it. For some reason, I did get into Friends when that was on. I watched all the Friends episodes. I don't think I would want to go and watch Friends back again because I suspect
it has
will
not aged well.
Have aged well. No, it was
not
of its time.
Yeah,
and
it's
not in the way that like the
time
18
anyway.
was of its time. Yeah, the 18 Night Rider, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I've seen a few kind of partial episodes or clips, kind of this century, and they haven't aged well just because it was naff, but it was kind of good naff.
Yes,
it was Saturday evening, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, no more than 7 o'clock, and it was target market. It was mostly kids and families, so there was never any blood in the A-Team, apart from maybe the odd kind of somebody punched one of the A-Team in the nose, and there'd be a little dribble of fat lip, something like that, or black eye. And they'd shoot thousands of rounds of ammunition. there'd never be anyone kind of no blood or anything like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes not even
Everyone
anyone
just fell
dying. Yeah,
over.
all the bad guys would just big explosion. All the bad guys would just get up and stagger off.
Yes.
And it was all very family friendly, but a bit naff. Yeah, and unrealistic. It was kind of like, particularly if you're kind of 10 years
Predictable
old.
cheese, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think something like Friends, I think I don't think it would have, I mean, the humour, I don't think it would have made it.
Unfortunately, it really hasn't aged well. I know a few people who sort of have been back and rewatched it recently, or regularly do do a rewatch because there's particular bits that have sort of meant something to them. And just catching bits of it, or talking about specific things or ways of speaking to each other. It's very much still of its time.
Best forgotten. Yes.
Yeah, it's all about Rick and Morty now, surely. And if you don't like that, you obviously don't get it.
Well, I introduced my 12-year-old to Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel the other day.
I Am Weasel. Oh my.
Yeah. With I.R. Baboon.
Baboon.
That. I mean, it's still just as good as we remember.
Yeah, there was something I tried to revisit some things, and they're not always, as good as you say. Then they remake some things, and you think, oh, why did they do that? And then actually, it's really good. Like say, Battlestar Galactica. I remember thinking, why, how dare you? And then I was like, oh, okay, that's actually really good.
So I've not watched any of the new ones because I watched all the kind of the original Battlestar Galactica back in the last century. And haven't watched any of the new ones.
No, I'd recommend them. It's quite brutal and realistic in times. And also like the setting and everything. It's I don't know. It's just expanded. There are some stupid bits. Obviously, most things have stupid bits, but I would recommend it.
I've heard quite a few people have recommended that for same sort of reason of it just being really well done and kind of generally really consistent and all that.
A few years ago, I was kind of, particularly when my back was really bad, and I was kind of sort of be up late watching. I just try and watch sort of random stuff on sort of TV just to kind of as a distraction. And I can remember watching a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and I can remember, when I was younger, I watched them all. They were, it'd be like VHS, wouldn't go to the cinema to watch it, but they were enjoyable films in my youth to a certain extent. But I think, watching it back then, kind of many years on, it was just like they really were rubbish. And I think I started watching one, which is probably one of the better films as I remembered it. And I think I got about 10 or 15 minutes in, and it's just like, I can't watch this anymore. This is just
exactly the same with Steven Seagal. Like I remember watching a couple of Steven Seagal films when I was younger. That again, the really good, like particular scenes that were good bonding moments for me and my dad that we watched together, and it's like there's a lot of
there's some corny jokes.
And there's a lot of memory that's
jokes
linked to them. But
to
sit through the whole film for like 5 minutes of a particularly good fight scene, and
that's why YouTube was invented.
Yeah.
So I just want to watch
like
that
Alpha
bit.
Justice and Nico and things like that there's some really, really good displays of Aikido and things that were really cool fight sequences, but then still got an hour and a half of film to go through.
Oh, Ross has just mentioned V.
Oh,
is that the one with the lizards?
Yes, I think it was 70s or 80s originally, late 70s.
Definitely 80s.
80s, yeah.
I want to say 80s.
Mark Singer, I remember that.
Yes.
And then they did the new one.
Laurie, what was her name? Oh, I can't remember her name now. Really fancied her. No,
oh, was she one of the bad guys?
I can't remember now.
Someone
it's a long time ago. I can remember. Rabbit. Yeah, and they kind of that was good, but it was also terrible.
So we're talking like 35, 40 years ago? sort of.
No, the 80s was only 20 years ago.
It's got to be over 40. It's got to be 40 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah, and there was. Oh, what was his name? There's an actor that always kind of played a tough guy. Always ended up kind of being like an army instructor. He was in Starship Troopers as well. Kind of ended up. I think he ended up dead in Starship Troopers.
Oh, the guy
I
that
think most
looks
of them
like
did.
Jack Nicholson, Ironside. Yeah,
Ironside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was always kind of.
loses
Yeah.
a limb in everything. I think most things he loses a limb.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, reminiscent of that 80s TV. And 90s TV with friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I've been revisiting some YouTube videos and things again. I've sort of started getting into rewatching some of the diorama builds and things, and actually just
Nice.
the original stuff that got me into woodwork. So like Steve Ramsey was probably the first sort of YouTube influencer for me, and he's gone on to do loads of cool stuff since then, but I still haven't attempted some of his early videos. So I was like, well, I still haven't made that toolbox, and then it was like, oh, sorry, we'll start from the beginning, because then we're watching him learn as well.
I was watching Neil Patrick Harris the other day on Hot Ones, and he was talking about getting into woodworking, and he's started working through Steve Ramsey stuff.
Yes.
And making the
right.
workbench and things, and he said it's he's really getting into it, and he started getting into some of the maker community stuff.
I think Steve Ramsey interviewed him on his podcast.
I believe he did,
His making podcast. I seem to have memory of that. He's also got into 3D printing as well.
Yeah, because he had Joel Telling, the 3D printing nerd. They're really, really awesome projects. A lot of 3D printed picture frames. Very cool video. Super ornate, but modular picture frames.
Peter Millard's just got into 3D printing, hasn't he? I think he's just got a 3D printer. But I'm like, oh, great! Now it's like, what's he not going to do now? Sort of like, slow down. I'm not there yet. I haven't finished making your thing.
There's some very annoyingly talented people.
Yeah, we must get Peter on actually at some point.
So there happen to be nice people as well, and it's just makes it.
That's really annoying, isn't it? Yeah, I've just sort of built up got some nice loathing going on, and then I meet them and let's put this twat
talented,
this
skilled, and a nice person.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think Peter's definitely falls into that category. I mean, the work he was doing professionally before he became retired and became a full-time YouTube creator.
And it was just it was a bet, wasn't it? It was just a bet with
to do YouTube. Yeah,
it's like, oh, but you can't, and he did, and now that's it.
Yeah, now he's he's older than I am, so he's been able to retire, but he keeps it going, kept the workshop, and now turning it into a temple to routers and track stores.
Yes, but also I'm like, it's just so easy to follow as well. I mean, he explains everything so well.
He's got a very good way of explaining stuff.
I've messaged him several times going like, is it these types of hinges? And he's like, very good at informing you on what you should or shouldn't be doing. It's because I still get starstruck by the YouTubers that we meet, and I'm like, oh god, and then you meet them, and he's like, oh, actually, they're just people, and they don't mind people talking to them.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah. I think it depends how the type of person you are in the way that you reach out to someone as well. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yes, but I think there are a few who consider themselves unapproachable by anyone who has less than X number of hundreds of thousands of subscribers.
There's always bad apples at some point.
This is very true.
I won't get out of bed for less than 10,000 likes.
Yeah, maybe you have to think about how you get out of bed and what you're wearing when you do it.
That'll be next.
How you get the likes.
I'm surprised that's not happened. Why has there not been a Big Brother style making show? Just maybe that's it. We've cornered that patent pending.
Just all stuck in a house for a certain amount of time. None of this stupid American
real
game
life
show,
A-Team.
get rid of someone every week sort of thing. Just just
it's
stick
like,
a
right,
load of people in
okay,
the house
we've
for a
got Jimmy
runtime.
DeResta, we've got Steve Ramsey. We're going to put them in a shed. No welders, no woodwork tools, just a loads of pottery, and see what happens.
Here's this week's skill that you have to learn.
Yes.
There's a bit of mileage there, though. I think kind of that idea, kind of they'll be big makers. Get a bunch of people who kind of, who are makers of some sort. Throw them into a house that has the basic accommodations that they need. And you give them kind of the food, but you don't do the silly stuff like Big Brother did of saying, "Right, well, this week you can't have enough, or today you can't have enough food." Or you can't do stuff like that. So you
There's
feed them
only
properly.
12 nails left.
Yeah, you feed them properly. You give them the kit they do, but they've got to make things all the time. There's got to be ongoing projects to kind of do this house up or
So what you're
But
saying
as the time goes on,
don't
do
take away the
feed
food.
them out.
Don't take away the food. Just take away their amenities.
Tools.
It's like we're going to just remove this wall overnight while you're all sleeping. So you've got to build it.
Yeah, you've all got soup and there's only forks available, but you've got to make those.
Oh, you've got to make your own spoons.
Yeah.
Spoons and bowls. There's some lathes. Yeah, there's a lathe and some other bits, and you've got to make. Yeah, you've got to make a utensil. There's an idea for. I think that could be brilliant.
It's
like a more recent version of Rough Science, almost. Then.
Oh, I loved Rough Science.
Yeah,
that was one of my favourite programs.
Is that the one where they had to make gold or find gold?
Yeah, they had like an overall.
Yeah.
I've heard you can do it from lead.
Technically, you can with the right kit.
We just haven't quite invented the kit yet.
Well, no, we have. We have the kit. You can transmute elements from one to another. The only problem is, particularly if you're trying to generate gold, it would cost you more than the gold would be worth, and you'd end up with very radioactive gold.
Yeah.
True.
But apart from that, it's doable.
We just need molecular transporters or 3D printers or something.
It's some gold that you can't spend or wear.
Because it'll kill you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll put it in a nice lead-lined cabinet for you. It'll be fine.
That's like an NFT.
Yeah, we've only got a gram, but it's worth the same amount of as a ton of.
Yes.
Actual. Yeah.
But it costs us a ton of real gold. Yeah.
But the whole Rough Science thing, they had like an overall set of goals at the very start. So it would be, figure out where we are, find a way to communicate to somewhere else, or things like that. So they'd have to then, because they had things like usually something medical, something biological. So growing something.
Yes, okay.
Things like that.
So all the people involved in it were scientists.
Yes.
So they all had a science or engineering background.
Yeah, like a chemist.
So there was a chemist, a physicist, engineer,
botanists,
and they would be taken to somewhere like they ended up in a variety of different places over the different series. So, for example, they'd be dropped on an island, and they'd have some tools, but a limited tool set, and they would have, some resources. They could make use of the available local resources, but they'd have to then make things. So there'd be things like making seawater batteries in order to generate electricity get maybe like a radio to work, or trying to think of some of the other ones. It's been a long time.
There was loads of really, really good things, like crystal oscillator radios and really, really cool things.
They'd split into teams. Yeah, they'd split into like pairs and kind of work on like 3 or 4 projects every episode.
Yeah,
and sometimes you need 4 or 5 people, so they'd kind of go and help each other on one thing. Yeah, that was a brilliant show.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think
very,
I
very
saw
good.
that. That's so how long ago was that? Was it the last
Early
decade? Or...
2000s.
Oh, okay.
I might argue that it was earlier than that.
Might be.
Back
Might
when there
be.
was 4 channels.
Possibly. It was Kate Humble was
Ooh.
presenting it.
She was.
Um,
Yeah. I've just typed actually I've just gone to Google rough science. I've typed in rough and the first page that comes you know when you get the autofill of the sort of previous things you looked at, I've got rough science homepage on open2.net and BBC Rough Science.
It could have been so much worse.
Yeah. Well, maybe no, it wouldn't actually. Oh, it seems to have disappeared. Apparently I'm not currently authorized to access this content.
the injunction's obviously gone through then.
Yeah. Actually 2000 is when it started. I was wrong. Yeah, 2000.
Called it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's really good.
I suppose it's based on the necessity, isn't it? Because the mother of invention is you need
Absolutely,
the thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
so-
a lot of it, they would go into the science history of it as well. So they would talk about the using particular chemicals, or that like the chemist would often sort of break something down into component chemicals, and then how they would have historically extracted these particular chemicals from these particular substrates or whatever to then make this thing, and how they discover this to then do that. It's got very, very nerdy and very science and history together, and very makery and stuff as well. It was just it was the full gamut of maker TV show. Really.
I'm always fascinated how just a bit like when did we start drinking milk? At what point did someone say, "Oh, I'm going to go have a go on that"? At what point did someone get a lump of earth and then sort of like, "Oh, I might burn that," and
see what happens.
What come out here? I wonder if I melt it a bit more. And then hit it with a hammer. Not that I'm having to go at any blacksmithing.
Well, I think some of the things were accidental. I think some things were accidental. So I think things like some of the metal. You could take they knew about fire, so they made a fireplace out of some local rocks, and then noticed that something was pouring out out of the bit of rock.
Something was a bit shinier.
And then when you kind of the fire had cooled and gone out, you had this thing that was suddenly very hard. And kind of what's this like? And kind of I don't know, maybe rub it against another stone and you actually discover that it could take an edge, and you don't have to use flint anymore.
I suppose, most things were accidents, but they were like X-rays,
penicillin, the microwave oven.
But penicillin was. I'm reading Outlander at the moment. She's doing penicillin experiments in it with using moldy bread and things. But the point is, at some point, someone looked at the mold and were like, I'm going to inject that into someone because I have a good feeling about it.
Well, it was it's a couple of things with that, isn't it? But I mean, I think the whole discovery with penicillin, wasn't it? It was his like he buggered off on holiday or something, left the window open, and it was some tree mold had blown in and landed on a couple of petri dishes that were left open, and it cleared the remaining bacteria.
Okay, right, that makes much more sense than my theory.
But there was the guy who discovered and then cured the Helicobacter pylori, which is one of the common causes of stomach ulcers. He'd figured it was this particular thing. So for the medical experiments, you couldn't experiment on someone else, but there was no law about experimenting on yourself. So he basically infected himself with that Helicobacter pylori and then cured himself. And he ended up like a Nobel Prize for it, I think. And a very sternly worded letter from the medical board saying, "Don't do that, please."
No, don't do it again.
Yeah, as
well
similar
done,
one with a guy who was investigating tapeworms. Infected himself with tapeworms in order to cure himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, biology stuff. Yeah.
Weirdos on.
I think I think that a lot of stuff happens by accident, and then I think then you get people who kind of go, "Oh, what if?" And sometimes that what if ended up with them dead, but then sometimes the what if ended up with them discovering something that really worked. And
what if we add mayonnaise to tuna and then put it between two bits of bread?
The mayo was probably a bit dry. This is a bit dry. I don't want to eat it. What have I got? But how did the first mayonnaise get made?
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting question I'm going to pose to you then. So, what was the last time, if you have, made a happy mistake? So, you did something and then you went like, "Oh, I've just found a new way of doing this by accident."
That's a good question.
I flipped it round.
I don't know. I'd have to
Who's
think
interviewing
about
who?
that.
Yeah.
Oh, this has never been an interview podcast.
I'll go first. It's because when I did Ziggy's box there, I thought about staining it black with the vinegar wire solution.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that won't work, And then I put the paintbrush down and it went. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing that now. And it turned out really well.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything right now. It's probably a cooking thing, maybe.
I was going to say most likely.
That happens every now and again. You kind of go, "Ooh, that works."
That was all right. I might do that again accidentally.
Yeah. But then I think sometimes because I kind of have with cooking. It's kind of if you learn the kind of a bit of the science and the whys and wherefores, things kind of then you can kind of go, well, that works with this, so this is similar to that, so maybe this will work with this other thing. So I think there's kind of often an element of once you know. One of the things I often say in things like photography, if you know the rules of photography, you know when you can break them, and that's why it's important to study the rules of photography. Things like your rule of thirds. Once you've kind of if you know about the rule of thirds, then you can know sometimes work out when it's okay to not follow that.
Yeah, I suppose that comes with experience as well. Does it? Like, you develop your palettes with food, don't you? So you kind of have an idea that something's going to go better with something else. But my friend is a vegetarian. He basically, so he has very good variety of things he makes, but Madeira cake and cheese, put them together, and they. I don't know. It worked so well. It's not something I would have done, and I don't know when he decided to do that.
I mean, not a recent one, but kind of talking about a food one that I kind of discovered many years ago. I can remember visiting a relative once, and being given cheese and onion sandwiches. So literally just thin slices of onion with cheddar cheese in a sandwich. Yeah, you get cheese and onion crisps, so you want to have cheese and onion sandwiches.
Yeah, not wrong with that. I used to do that.
So that's kind of quite normal. But then I had a sandwich toaster. So I had this sort of thought, because if you cook onion, it gets that caramelizing thing. But you kind of sometimes to speed up the cooking of onion, you want kind of a sort of bit of sugary type thing. So I took made a buttered my bread, layer of cheese, layer of onion, and a layer of strawberry jam.
What?
So I was going to say cheese and jam sandwiches are.
Oh yeah, really as kids we had cheese and jam sandwiches. That was a regular kind of sort of treaty type thing. But if you put the three together, really thinly slice the onion, sandwich toaster. The onion, if you make it thin enough, sweetens up, cooks a little bit because of the strawberry jam, and so you end up with almost like a strawberry chutney kind of effect with the.
Yeah, chutney was what I was thinking. It would because of the sourness and the sweetness, or the onion cutting through it. That'd be that's on my to-do list now. Yes,
I certainly recommend it. You want the onion as thin as you can get it, so it still kind of maintains sort of structure. How
many millimeters thick?
Slice it with a razor.
I'd go for one if you can manage it, or less.
Like a mandolin then.
Yeah, mandolin would go. Yeah. So that was one I discovered I was probably a teenager when I discovered that one. And it was kind of kind of late teenager, but it was definitely gonna try that again. Yeah, moment. Because it was a case of like first time it was like this might not work.
Yeah.
But it did, yeah. Because again, knowing a little bit about the science of kind of cooking, because again, kind of like rough science. Yeah, there was, as Donna sort of pointed out in the chat, kind of up until kind of probably about when rough science started, Open University used to run, put TV programs on. Sometimes they'd be kind of into the early hours of the night, or they'd start in the early hours of the morning and finish sort of by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. And you'd get kind of interesting science. I mean, I always went for the science programs. I can remember one, I think it was in the 90s, that was the science of cooking. And you get things like, how, the importance of air in food. And they did this thing where they took some ice cream. They took 2 tubs of identical ice cream, and one of them, they let it melt, and then they refroze it, and then they tasted it. So identical ice cream, but the one that had melted, of course, lost all the air that had been incorporated in the manufacture.
Yeah.
This was quite a good brand ice cream. As opposed to kind of the cheapest possible vanilla ice cream from a supermarket. This was kind of
block that you have to cut.
Yeah, we used to. Yeah, do you remember those?
Yeah,
you used to get kind of in a cardboard box, and you kind of slice off and then put it between some wafers.
I was telling my wife about that recently. She didn't believe me that they existed.
Yeah, and you could get the Neapolitan as well. So then you had this sort of thing that they basically showed the importance of the air in terms of the texture and the enjoyment then of the ice cream. And there's little things like that. You kind of go, ooh, yeah.
I wonder if that's anything to do. Well, because I remember watching something where they basically made people eat things and pinch their nose, and they're like, "What do you think you've eaten?" It's like, well, it was like a fruit pastel, and they said, "Oh, it's strawberries." Like, no, it's like the worst flavor or something. It's completely different. It's lemon. And they also did that with the same sweets, but they changed the colors of them.
Yeah,
and people just couldn't get their heads.
Blue mashed potato. I remember one with blue mashed potato.
Yeah, we've done that before. Well, it's the whole like green eggs and ham thing, isn't it? Doing the kind of, as a kid when I want this, or just for like Halloween or something, just make a load of really weirdly coloured green milk and things like that. It's just on your cereal, just to really mess with you. It's amazing how much all the senses are involved in your enjoyment of something like food.
Yes, yeah. I find maybe it's just me, but like say if you're eating food and it's completely quiet as opposed to some sort of background noise, like in a restaurant, I find that the whole experience is really different. I don't know, like the buzz of the restaurant maybe makes it a little bit better. Kind of like everyone here is enjoying their food. Whereas, like, if it's quiet, it's probably because I'm on my own, and that's why it doesn't taste so nice. Just me on my own.
Well, it becomes a different experience then, doesn't it? Yeah. You're just consuming the food to carry on with the next thing that you're doing, as opposed to being out to actively go and enjoy the time. It's a different mindset entirely, isn't it?
So I just caught Ross's comment there that his partner and I added food colouring to our milk at uni so no one would nick it.
Genius.
That's a clever idea.
Yeah. There was an incident when I was at university of somebody stealing people's milk. And somebody else, not me, had been in town and had acquired a free sample from a local herb shop of laxative. So added it to it. So this guy he would open people's milk and then he'd open a pint of milk and drink the entire thing in one go. And so it was added to the only remaining bottle of milk in the fridge, given to everyone else in the house. This was there were 10 of us in the house, and it's about 5 o'clock the next morning. He was tramping down the stairs and into the bathroom, and apparently every day, all through that day, he arrived late for lectures and was rushing out of the lectures very quickly. But no more milk got stolen.
So I think I'm lactose
you-
intolerant.
Yeah.
Did you miss many lessons in that day then, Andy?
No, not me. It wasn't me. It was not me. I was one of the people who lost some milk. And yeah, we had to raid his room at one point as well because no one had any plates left.
Oh,
And
classic.
we discovered something like 15 plates in his room, none of which belonged to him. Yeah,
Covered
some
in
of them we
penicillin.
kind of yep.
Yeah, when I lived in a house sharing in Bristol, we all had our own crockery in our own cupboards for that reason, because mine would be
we did. Yeah,
used,
we did.
washed, and then put back in, and they
We
stayed
did, but
there.
they weren't locking cupboards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We had someone when I went to uni the first time. There was a guy that used to name the food, but what I mean literally name the food. So like the milk could be called Terry, the margarine would be called Susan. But we knew it was his stuff.
yeah, of course.
I don't miss sharing houses with people like that.
It's bad enough sharing it with your family, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, especially when you took the last biscuit. It's kind of like, where's that little lemon cheesecake, the individual portion in the jar type lemon cheesecake gone? Yeah, it's like, right. Okay,
I opened the drawer before, and just to see what snacks were available, and there was one biscuit left in the packet. Hadn't even been. Why has that last one not been eaten?
The bad one, yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather they eat the
misery,
packet and the whole thing disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Then you're not going. Oh, there was only one, but I really wanted two.
Yes, I suppose if it's not there, you can't be tempted.
It's like someone leaving a single piece of bread in the pack, isn't it? It's
bit hard push for that already, aren't you?
Or kind of crisps in the
it.
bottom of the packet. Yeah, they get the big packet of crisps and they kind of they eat 3/4, and it's like it's a single serving. Why are you not eating the entire packet?
What's wrong with you?
Maybe a reason I have sodium issues. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a 150-gram bag of kettle chips, then that might be it. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, the little kind of regular size packets are just tasters, aren't they? They just get used to the different flavors.
Yeah, it's like when you go in the
150-gram packets are a single serving. Yeah,
and they do the little taste of the wine in the glass to make sure it's the right bottle.
Yeah, or they're a sandwich. It's a sandwich portion.
Are the crisps you're liking, sir? Yes.
Yeah, crisp sandwiches. Yeah. What do they call crisps in America? They call them chips, don't they?
Chips,
yeah. It's like chips. Yeah. I mean, a chip buddy is a different thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I might have told someone online about this already, but like the communication barrier when I did Camp America, and just chips was one of the big things. I was like, like, do you want chips? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not really. And why did you put that next to my burger anyway? But the other thing was basically all these kids running around. I was like, come on, we gotta go. Put your jumpers on, for God's sake, let's go. We get there eventually and they're all freezing. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Where are your jumpers? They're like, we don't have jumpers. I was like, yes, you do. They're like, what's a jumper? I was like, oh, you mean they didn't know what it was. I was just like, oh, crikey. A sweater, which makes much more sense as a title for it, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, who came up with the name jumper? I mean,
it's a woolly jumper, isn't it? It's something knitted from sheep's wool.
Yes, yeah. It would make more sense if they were made from kangaroo hair or something.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, a woolly jumper is what you get when you cross a sheep with a kangaroo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Talking of dad jokes. It's an interesting one with linguistically, isn't it? That way that the English language is developing with things like slang or context. For things that have become common usage for not being the full phrase. Things like the one that springs to mind is fall. That being an old English thing of the fall of the leaf. point at the end of summer, and now it's just known in the States as fall, and everyone knows that it's that thing after in between summer and winter, but not having the context of where fall comes from as a thing, and it's something that British English dropped, and we decided to try and make something slightly posher and Frencher sounding, but it's stuck over in the US in American English, and then the context of where that phrase came from has been lost, and now it's just fall. It's just one word out of what was a sentence, essentially. And I think there's a lot of things like that have that we all contextually know what they mean, but it's missing other words to contextualize it in its original setting, or things where the common usage the meaning has now changed.
Well, I like how it's regional as well. That kind of common meaning change. I mean, crisps and chips are two obvious examples. If you ask for crisps or chips in the UK, you will get potato products. If you ask for crisps or chips in the States, you will probably get potato products. I don't know what crisps would be, unless they know about English food. I don't know. Never been to the States. But if you ask for chips, you get a potato product. But of course, if you want what we call chips, you'd need to ask for fries, steak fries, or some variation on fries to change the sort of size. And although we have fries in this country, obviously being that sort of derivative from French fries, for the stick
but ours are just the super
very
thin
very
ones,
thin. It's the super thin. It's kind of that sort of definition. We have those kind of sort of differences, different words in two English-speaking countries, but very different are different things. And it's interesting how those differences have kind of occurred and still happen. And the more cosmopolitan amongst both Brits and Americans will kind of know. If you go to I know that if I go to the States and ask for chips, then I'm going to get crisps. I know that because I'm aware of these things, but some people won't be. And there's also that element of you might forget and go, I really fancy some fish and chips right now. You end up with tuna and
I'm sure they know fish and chips out there. Yeah, that's because it's like it's a quaint English thing, isn't it? So like they're going
your Irish pub.
Yeah, we're going to get an English in. Let's get some fish and chips. But I think that might be the only context that makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe someone would go, "Oh, I'll have some nice fried fish and a packet of Walkers or Lay's."
So there's a YouTube channel that called Midwest Americans, and it's a couple from Kansas City, and they a lot of their content has been either reactions to British TV or British comedy stuff, or British food tasting and those kind of things. And they've recently just done a trip over to the UK and done kind of the London and Glasgow, Edinburgh, York, all the usual kind of places that a lot of American tourists come and check out. And as part of their kind of series of YouTube videos, they've done things like shopping in Sainsbury's local and a Tesco Express and then a Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's. And that was one of the things they were looking at, is like obviously the differences, like as Lindsay said, with things like biscuits versus biscuits, two very, very different things, either side of the pond. And they were looking in the freezer section at things like bags of oven chips, or bags of French fries, but then bags of like chips, and then they had sweet potato fries. They're like, hang on a minute, so they do know what fries are because they've got French fries and they've got sweet potato fries, but then they've got chips. What's going on? They're just trying to wrap their head around of like, do you guys understand when we're talking about like fries? Does that make sense to you then? It's like, well, yes, we are aware of.
You have to specify French fries or fries, don't you? I think fries is I could be wrong, but I thought French fries is definitely the skinny McDonald looking thing.
For us, yeah, but I think that's one of, because that's the origin of it, isn't it? It's the kind of the Belgian frites, or that kind of that would be the origin of the dish, as it were. But then over time, the French fries has been dropped. It's just become fries as the common usage. Language is weird. It's all made up anyway, isn't it?
It is.
Yes. Also,
is.
I just learned that. I mean, I was kind of aware of it, but it was on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, which is like a documentary.
Absolutely.
And they basically when a word gets added, it's the frequency of the word that warrants it being in there.
Yes, that was the big thing that absolutely blew my mind was the podcast The Illusionist, and it was they had someone on who was a lexicographer like Susie Dent, and they were talking about the dictionary being descriptive, not prescriptive. And we kind of grow up with this idea of like, if you want to know how to use a bit of word or a bit of language, you grab the dictionary to find out how it's supposed to be used.
Yes,
no, the dictionary is a record of how people use the language. It's an afterthought, descriptive thing of how everyone is using the words. So those words over time, any of them could change if we just start using them differently. And those different definitions then get added to the dictionary when people start using them.
We used to get told off a lot when we were younger at school. We used to say, ain't. I ain't doing that. And like, isn't in the dictionary, they would say. And then, we got a bit smug when we found out it was.
And it is. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And that completely ruined my perception of language at that point. Because I used to be of that kind of, I hate the way language is changing, or common usage. There's still distinct frustrations in certain stuff with common usage, but the fact that understanding of it being descriptive rather than prescriptive, that really messed me up. That completely.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about it differently now, I suppose.
Yeah. Sorry, folks.
But language, but everything changes. I mean, change is the only constant in life, and this goes for language too. And there is that element of language is a form of communication, and communication is often quite a tribal thing, and that tribe can be small, a small group of people, or it can be large, and sometimes we call that tribal language jargon.
Yes,
and the whole point of language is to communicate, but sometimes people don't want to communicate beyond a certain size of their group, so they may use language in a way. I mean, just the way teenagers use language,
and Cockney rhyming slang and things like that.
Trying to keep on top of what phrases mean. For example, good things or bad things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of examples of where people can kind of go, oh yeah, as an older person, I might say, oh, that's cool. But somebody who's younger might go, oh yeah,
that's really bad. That it's wicked.
That's really
bad. Wicked. Sorry.
Wicked. Yeah. It's like what? No, I thought it was really good. No. Yeah. Wicked means good. It's like
not when I grew up. It didn't.
Wicked means bad.
We've got a couple of words here in Portsmouth, and I know there's some people from Portsmouth on the chat, but they know what I'm going to say. If I said stop being a squinny, would you know what that meant?
It would sound like I've just done something bad.
What it's like? It's stop. It's basically like saying stop squinnying is like stop whining. So don't be such a squinny. And we've so far I know Portsmouth is the only place we hear that. Maybe Southampton, which is adjacent, and the other one is din or dinlow, which is don't be a din. We actually have a council thing on bins now saying don't be a din, put your rubbish in the bin. So don't be an idiot.
That makes sense. I suppose it's like the Bristol have Gert Lush as their
Gert Lush, yeah.
Gert Lush, yeah.
And you get it on t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Gert Lush in them.
First time I heard somebody say that we're going to mash some tea. It's like mash. That's what you do potatoes. It's like
you're doing it all wrong. It's a liquid. Yeah.
Mash some tea. I've not heard that one.
You know.
No.
That was okay, almost northern thing. That was a kind of Midlands thing.
Yeah,
Mash tea.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
so the first time I visited some
associate with
relatives
Midlands.
in Leicester, that came up. I was just like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, they're going to go make a cup of tea or pot of tea. Yeah.
Right, but that's mashing.
Yeah,
mash-
so there was
right.
there was some element. It's like the only thing I could think of, they were squeezing the bag against the side of the
suppose-
pot or something.
Does it come from
Or whether
boiling
it's-
potatoes?
No, I'm wondering
No.
if it's related to like brewing, making a mash.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I suspect so. And yeah, that language would have, language just sort of drift in from, if you've got an area where there's a particular industry, for example, that language will pervade in that area. And of course, then there's sort of the cultural language depending on, like teenage, like saying something's wicked. Yeah, it
Jungle
is
is massive.
very interesting. It is very interesting.
I mean, I get called fat and stupid all the time. I don't know.
They've got to be lovely things.
Yeah.
But that's obviously a compliment. It's a smuggling compliment.
That's what stops the tea, isn't it, mate?
So, thank you. Well, thank you. You are also fat and stupid.
I think it is interesting how kind of the kind of the linguistic differences even within a country, like or just the regions. Britain, it's quite a small country, really. Yeah, you can just take England, or just take something like Wales. The differences in dialect and language between Southeast Wales, West Wales, or North Wales. Yeah, because there's nowhere in the middle. Just take those sort of three different areas, and the difference in language that you'll find, particularly given that North Wales, there's a lot of Welsh speakers, and it always has been a lot of Welsh speakers. West Wales has always had kind of a large number of Welsh speakers, and the number in sort of Southeast has always been influenced massively by being close to Bristol, and close to Hereford, and the like. That accessibility to sort of England has massively changed how, but still having that, and in the valleys, you kind of whole kind of what's often referred to as sort of Wenglish. Where you kind of the language, predominantly English. I mean, until kind of the primary school, there was a law changed, I think in the 90s, that made all primary school students from then have Welsh taught to them. So all young people growing up through the 90s and beyond have been taught Welsh. So as opposed to when I was growing up in Wales, there were a few small number of schools in Southeast Wales where Welsh was the language. Welsh was taught in schools, some schools. I did 2 years of Welsh.
It's not a foreign language
over
there. So
and it was almost a dying language. But the hard work of various organisations, kind of the Welsh government basically said, look, we're not going to let this language die. It's blossoming and blooming, and which is fantastic. But what you found in kind of the valleys of South Wales, a lot of mining and heavy industry like steel and things like that, predominantly English speaking. But the English was sort of bastardized with elements of Welsh to create this sort of Wenglish. So like you get if you go up to kind of up north, and listen to Geordies, or you go to kind of Yorkshire, and you get sort of deep Yorkshire sort of dialects, and you get these whole languages. The whole extra words that get put in and the words that get used, and kind of. I mean, like with Welsh, if somebody goes up to you and says, "Do you fancy a cwtch?" You might kind of go,
get away from me.
Is something I have to eat? Do I have to go away? Well, actually, what I want to do is give you a hug. So
I remember because a close friend of ours, we went to go see them in Wales, and I mean, his mum's, they lived in Portsmouth, but she always used to give us a cwtch. And I remember the first time I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Am I going to enjoy
You're my
this?
mum's, my mate's mum. So is it all right?
Well, I've talked about before with Funagalo that my mate was sort of explaining to me, and it's from the diamond mines in Zimbabwe. because there's a lot of diverse culture and some stupid number of official languages of the kind of South African areas. They created this funagalo as a kind of lingua franca, if you like, for in the diamond mines, because they'd have workers coming from all over kind of southern and middle Africa. So it's kind of like a base of Zulu with a little bit of English and a little bit of Afrikaans thrown in there, and it's like mash of all these other languages, so that it's an instructional language, so that no matter who you're speaking with in that area, you've got your own kind of way of communicating to keep everyone safe and provide instruction for work and all the rest of the stuff. That's a fascinating one too. It's like a little
that's another
study
necessity
pot
thing. So again,
yeah, absolutely,
coming in saying like, right, you're all going to die unless we figure this out.
Exactly. But I mean, Lindsay's just raised a really good point though. With, language is a reflection of the culture, and that's something that industry has. Whether it's a big corporate entity with its own subset of acronyms within it, or whether it's the culture of makers with their own set of content creation acronyms that are also linked to crafts or things like that. With each of those cultures has their own subset of jargon or slang or its own underpinning language. That
I mean, some of the chat stuff we see on the WhatsApp group, you guys speak a completely different language when you're talking about 3D printing or computers. I'm like, oh, they're obviously talking about something to do with the PC. No, Darren, it's 3D printing this time.
I mean, in fairness, that I get very blind to a lot of the conversations in there myself when it starts going off into other stuff that's out of my comfort zone.
I think it's important to remember that
as well.
Yeah, language can be a huge barrier. And as
Very
a
much
teacher,
so.
one of my jobs as a teacher is to make sure that students understand what the language is. Because a word that sometimes you will use a word if a student doesn't understand what that word is, forget, they're not going to learn anything for the rest of the lesson. And there can just be one word can make all that difference.
Yes, yeah.
But then you also get, particularly in something like physics, the everyday use of a word does not necessarily match with the use of that same word in physics. Classic example is weight.
Weight, yes.
In everyday language, when people say, "Oh, wow, yeah, oh, how much do you weigh? What's your weight? What's the weight of this?" They're expecting a measurement in some unit of mass, whether that's pounds, kilograms, stone, or whatever, rather than in newtons, which is what it should be for weight. And that could, as a physics teacher, that causes all sorts of issues, because there's other ones too, where we have these with words that have a very specific, very precise meaning in physics. And unlike chemistry and biology that have very kind of obviously chemistry and biology words, with its photosynthesis, yes, it has a very specific meaning, but it's definitely everyone who's been through school knows, even if they don't know what photosynthesis is, even if they can't remember the equation for photosynthesis, they know that photosynthesis is this biology thing. And it means this, whether they fully understand the process of photosynthesis or whether they kind of know it's something to do with plants and it's how plants make food, maybe, but they know it's biology. If you say diethyl ketone, that's a chemistry thing. You say weight or mass, well, they're just everyday words, but in physics they have a very specific meaning.
And how fast is it going?
Yeah, and we have and volume. There's another one. Every day, most people, if you say volume, they're thinking about
how loud
is
it?
Sound.
How loud
Yeah.
it is, as opposed to a very specific amount of space that something takes up. And I think we get that in making too sometimes, where there are specific jargon for particular making things, but we also have words that in different forms of making are common, but they don't necessarily have exactly the same meaning, perhaps. And you get the same with tools. Like a blacksmith's hammer is not the same as a woodworker's hammer.
Yeah, or framing
framer's
hammer,
hammer, or
a jeweler's hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember talking to friends like, "Oh, what? I've just been to the shop. Well, what did you buy?" I said, "Oh, I got a new router," and like, "Oh, right, yeah, I've got this one." And then they start talking to me in computer language. I'm like, "No, this one's like goes really fast."
That's another linguistic difference: root and route. You know, two conceptually different things.
I mean, let's just face it. I mean, English particularly is a difficult language to learn. Yeah, we think it's easy because we grew up with it.
I mean, it would be great if it was, kind of just one country's origin rather than a conglomeration of centuries and centuries of us storming around the planet picking up other people's nice words.
But we don't even have things like fixed pronunciation of particular letter groups.
No.
Oh yeah,
bow, and rough all end up with the same.
I was just about to say the OUGH sound. There's 7 different ways of pronouncing that syllable.
I remember writing the word Vauxhall Cavalier down for the American kids when I was in Camp America. I was like, "How do you say that?" They're like, "Oh, Vauxhall Cavalier."
Well, Dave Gorman does a fantastic thing about that with talking about specifically about the OUGH sound. And there's a Loughborough University campus in London, and there's signs for it. And you said, Loughborough University, as Loughborough as a place, has the OUGH syllable in it twice, pronounced 2 different ways. It's like the worst possible word for a non-British native English speaker to try and figure out how it's pronounced, because it's just horrific.
Worcestershire's pretty bad as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you could work that out if you understand that it's sheer, not shire, and all that kind of stuff.
What
Lugabooga? Lugaboo is
well, Lugabaruga is a really common one that people say. But what he did, he says a couple of times there's been American tourists stood there staring at this word, being very puzzled, and they've turned. He's kind of like made his presence known just out of eyeshot. So that they've kind of turned and asked him how it's pronounced, and he defaults to it's Lowbrow University. Because it's both a lie and not a lie at the same time.
You could have Loughborough. Yeah,
exactly. There's so many different ways.
I was looking for something on eBay, another sewing table, and it was in Derby, but I just read it. It's like, Tess, where is Derby? She's like, Derby. It's like, no, Derby. It says so here. But geography is not my strong point. I just found out there's a California in England. That blew my mind.
Yep. Most of the places in the US, there is a British equivalent.
Yeah, Boston.
We've got a York, for instance.
We had the first York, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, the old one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Washington as well.
Yeah.
This is why my eBay searches don't always work out, because like often I find the thing I want, but like you're saying, I just can't afford the import.
No, brain's completely gone dead. I was about to start a sentence and it just disappeared. Never mind.
We possibly should talk about us making it at some point. We've kind of hinted at it a couple of times. Dan's in his workshop.
Yeah, we're nearly at a point of an introduction, I suppose, aren't we?
Yeah. We could do. Yeah.
We could do. Yeah. Who does that?
Well, we don't know who he is because he hasn't got the big...
Oh, the Mohawk's
colourful
not there at the moment. Yeah, it's I'm in between hawks at the moment. Basically, and my wife understands it's not a criticism, but I might go to an actual like barber's to get it done straight, because it's got thinner and fatter over the time, and I figure if I get a nice straight line to work to, she can take over from there. But like at the moment, it's too much. Making wise, if you want something to talk about, I done my first scarf joint. Don't know if you can see
nice.
this. Sort of a hit and miss to start with. It just basically sort of started taking it away with the chisel, and then it just kept taking more away with the chisel because it wasn't really flat. Then I got these two pieces the right shape, and they just weren't marrying up properly. Then I remembered a tutor showing us how they did the how he would do wooden fascia, and he was he taught us to overlap them and then just cut through them both. And so I basically jammed them together and then resawed them, and now they're like basically they're a mirror image, and it works. It's worked out well. But I've got 4 more of these to do, and that will eventually become a footstool. So this is part of an old vaulting horse. But that's the most current project.
My eldest got their results on their A-level results last Thursday, and in the car park of the school there were 2 skips. One of the skips there was the base, the bottom base of the stacking horses. You kind of get the old vaulting horses that were stacked up, and you could take the bottom bit off so it was lower. And there was the bottom of one of that. It was just like, I wanted to put it out and rescue the wood because
it's good wood.
It's solid wood. I mean, it's going to be a hardwood. It won't be pine because it
I
would
think
be.
so, yeah. The last one I did was made of beech. So it's some good usable material there.
It's probably. I mean, crikey, it's probably 40 or 50 years old. Yeah, it's going to be stable as anything. Yes, it's got a few dents in it from being kicked and have things kicked at it and thrown around. But yeah, that would soon mill out or sand out.
Yeah. Well,
I was just I mean, the short
it's
side
a big
was
thing
kind
to
of,
store.
18 inches. The other, well, this is the reason I didn't put out, because I need to actually be getting rid of stuff at the moment, not bringing more stuff in. And
see, if you have got rid of the other stuff first and bought yourself a battery circular saw that you could keep in the back of the car, you could do that. You could have just broken it down and actually brought it home with you.
Yeah, it's easier to hide that way. My
wife was there as well. So yeah,
I was like, Tess, sorry, I bought a thing. I thought I could flip it. Basically, it was like another vaulting horse. And I was like, oh, I know someone that might want to recycle that to do something with. And they were like, no, thanks. I was like, I'm now stuck with a vaulting horse. We lived in a smaller house. I've heard they're
popular with certain how can I describe it?
Yeah,
certain type of people.
Clowns, athletics.
Yeah, athletics. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it was quite hard to move it, like pretend it wasn't there, because I just left. We had 2 rooms, living room and front room. I came back with this thing. I was like, I'm sorry, but I think I could do something with it. And it's our table now. It's our coffee table, so it works.
Fantastic.
Oh, I love the idea of that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I would get away with that. I wouldn't have got away with sort of pulling it out of the skip. It
wasn't for those meddling kids.
Yeah, I mean, I know the caretaker of the school, so I could have kind of gone and found him and said, "I'm going to take that," and he'd have gone, "Yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it was one of the big skips as well. Yeah, it was a 12-yard skip, the high-sided ones.
They threw I was only caretaking for a short time, but the stuff I saw them throwing away, it's just like, oh no, I can't. Like I would try to take as much as I could home, but it's just so much stuff. And but yeah, perfectly usable, like tables and things. Just like, it just needs a new piece of wood on it.
Yeah, and the tabletops here is like,
yes,
they were often made, particularly kind of like things like Iroko and stuff like that. Yeah. Yes, you've got to chip off the chewing gum off the bottom, and yes, you've got to mill out the scratched phalluses and other things in the top. But once you've done that, you end up with some nice wood that's been around for a long time is usually pretty stable.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess it was a bit more in abundance, say 50 years ago. Probably a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, most of the material I use, I don't think I've bought any hardwood in a very long time. It's basically skip rescues. I'm very lucky that my old employer, when I was self-employed, he's whenever he's fitting out kitchens and things like that, if there's any decent material, he gives me first dibs. But it does mean I am mostly Sapelian oak. It's like nobody throws anything like maple away or anything like that.
Yeah, I've still got an old Sapele door down in the dumping ground workshop down the bottom of the garden. There's kind of the door I helped my mate replace, and it's like, oh, do you want me to chuck this in the skip, or take it down the tip or whatever? And I might. It's good wood in that. I might have that. And that's been down there for 3 years maybe. It's in my way. Still, nothing's happened. It's just, I think I'll just cut that down and get rid of it eventually.
Yes, it's all good intentions.
I mean, it's the never-ending sort of battle, isn't it? With sort of, unless you, again, cultural differences. The majority of American workshops, even the small ones, are massively bigger than a lot of the UK workshops. And I think for us, I think it's kind of that, and certainly for me, there's that kind of battle of, I have a limited amount of space, and I keep trying to fill it, and that's always a bad thing. And I've discussion I've had this with Jamie recently, kind of off air. I mean, I think I have now reached. Well, I've got a situation of, I have a shed that is falling apart. I have to empty it. Yeah, and it's a 12 by 6 shed. So there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, I've taken a lot of stuff out, and I've got 2 other sheds. One of now is a new one that we've put the gardening things in, and it's only gardening stuff and step ladders. So the things that need to be stored out of the house. And I've got another shed which is 7 by 7, and that is now chock up with stuff that I need to go through. That stuff I need to go empty the other one, and I need to get rid of stuff from the Tinkerage is chock up. And I think I've now reached a point where one of the reasons that I'm not doing stuff is that actually there's just too much stuff. But I have this. I particularly have this kind of. I think burden is quite the right sort of word to use. I don't like getting rid of stuff that could be useful.
No, yeah, that's. I think that's I don't know if it was, I hate throwing things away. I'm not a hoarder. I don't think I'm a hoarder. But
I am. I think hoarding is a spectrum. It's a spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, like I can still move around.
But I think you've got the people who kind of have maybe. I don't know the proper technical terms, and I might be kind of. People might be listening to this and going, "No, you can't say that. Or you shouldn't say things like that." But you get the people who we see on the TV programs, the hoarder type TV programs, where literally you cannot walk through there. You can open the front. You can't even necessarily open the front door full. You can't walk down the hallway because there are stacks 5 feet high of newspapers, and you go into the kitchen and there isn't a surface that you can put anything on, and you go into the kind of living room and there are every
pile of
cigarette
next to the
pile of
open
newspapers, and every cigarette that they've ever smoked is in the ashtray, and it's overflowing, and they can't throw anything away, and it is a serious illness that is affecting their ability to have relationships with other people, to operate in any meaningful way as a person themselves. And obviously, I think that's kind of an extreme end of the situation. But then I think there's this kind of maker hoarder type person. I think partly for me, we grew up very poor. We were exceedingly poor when I grew up. I always had food to eat. Wasn't always great food, and sometimes it'd be things like, we're having porridge for dinner. But as a child, I always had food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult now, I know that my mother didn't always have much food to eat, but they always made sure that I did. And so, we never, I had a lot of clothes that were made at home. We had a lot of secondhand stuff. We had a lot of sort of hand-me-downs, and we never threw anything away. We could fix things.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think there's still that, for me, there's still that element of, I mean, there's also, I am concerned about things like the environment. I don't want to throw things away if they could be useful. I want to reuse. I try and reduce, but I want to reuse and recycle because that's a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also as a maker, because I think, oh yeah, I could. And I have so many project ideas in my head and in my maker notebook that kind of, yes, I'd like to have a go at making an R2. I'd like to have a go at making a Johnny 5. I'd like to have a go at making a zillion other things. And I've, it's, that would be good for this and that would be good for that.
I'd loathe to throw something away and then find out, it's like, oh, that's the thing I needed, but I threw it away.
Yeah, and
that's the maker struggle, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's like, I have got rid of stuff in the past, and a week or 2 weeks later, you kind of go, yeah, I had the thing to fix this. Now it's going to cost me because I got rid of it 2 weeks ago. I could have done it for free, but now I'm going to have to pay.
So I've got to, kind of throw the horrific point of privilege in the hat here of having multiples of certain tools because they're easy to store in a place that you can very quickly lose. So I was trying to find a pop riveter the other day, and I know I've got a pop riveter somewhere because I remember using one, but I've no idea where the hell it is. It was a cheap one. It would have cost me a couple of quid. And I'm probably going to have to buy another one because I've got some pop rivets to put in. And I have absolutely no clue. I took basically half my workshop apart the other day to try and find the pop riveter. And it is not where it should be if I was contextualizing the tools.
But when you buy a new one,
the other one will appear.
Within 5 hours, you will find the other one, and it will be in a. Of course, it's there. Place.
Yes, it's in your top pocket when you go to the shop.
Yeah, exactly. I've been through all those places where I would put it when I was doing any other operation that would have used that tool. I haven't as yet asked my wife if she's tidied anything up because she did help me out hugely by reorganizing some of my workshop for me a couple of years ago. So since I used it last time, it may have been put in somewhere that made more sense. But I've no idea where it is. And I know it was only a couple of quid. And I'm probably going to end up with another pop riveter. And it's a horrifically privileged thing to be able to do. But I think we've all got multiples of some tools that we don't need to have multiples of. We've all done that before.
No. Well, yeah, like routers. I had one router, and it was. I ended up just chewing through the cable. And I think so. Duncan from Little Hobby Shop fixed it for me, and then but I couldn't wait, so I went and got another. I got a Katsu one, which is like, oh, this is lovely. This does what I need, and I was like, and it was so cheap, so I was kind of like, if I got another one, I wouldn't need to change the bits, would I? I was like, so that's what we've done. Yeah. And then Duncan gave me back that one, and then I invested in a router table. So it's basically, potentially, I don't need to change bits ever. And that's logical. But yeah, sometimes you go like, I was rummaging around and go like, why have I got 5 hammers, all of them the same, and they're all crap?
Well, the problem you're going to run into with the routers is because those Katsus are so cheap. You'll get to the point where you'll need to use a different bit. You'll just go and buy another Katsu router and put the bit in, so you know you need to change it. And then you'll get to a point where you'll have forgotten that bits are changeable. And then the bit that you're using will become blunt, and you'll just throw the whole router out, buy another router with bit.
I used to work with a guy who I think he had like 5 Game Boys because he didn't know like this is early Game Boys, so the God Grey ones. He's like, yeah, I've got the one with Tetris. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good game. And then he's like, oh, I've just bought another one with like Mario Land on it. And I was like, you know that you can take the cartridge. Like, no, it's too technical. Just kept buying new Game Boys.
I think in a production shop, buying something like multiples of routers is potentially a really good thing. Yeah, and same with sanders with
angle
different
grinders,
grits on angle grinders. One with the cut off disc, one with the grinding disc. I think stuff like that can be sensible. But then I think I think to myself, I've got three routers. I've got the Katsu. I've got a 1/4-inch kind of Performance Pro B&Q Jobby, which was my first router, and I've got a big DeWalt 1/2-inch. And it's like, I'm probably not going to ever use. Well, the 1/2-inch I have used a few times. I've used it for kitchen worktops. I'm probably never going to do kitchen worktops myself again, but I have used it essentially because it's got such a big base.
Yeah,
clamped in a workmate as a bit of a janky router table. Possibly not the safest thing to do, but
not one to put on video.
It works.
It worked, yeah. But then I think, angle grinders, and I think I've got 4 angle grinders. I'm not a metal worker.
No, I suppose that's yeah. I mean, I never thought of them as exclusively metalwork, but there's one of those things that I do kind of think like, well, a third one wouldn't hurt. Like the only reason I ended up with 2 is because one of them just stopped working, and I was like, right, I haven't got time, so I just got the Parkside one, and it's actually really, really good.
The 125 mil Parkside one.
Yes, it's amazing. And it's like the handles and everything. It's ergonomic. Brilliant. And then as soon as I bought that, the old Black & Decker just said, "Oh, sorry, I was just sleeping." And it came back, and it's never been a problem. So it's like, right.
See, I'm the same one of you too. I've got a packet of cut-off discs for 125. All my angle grinders are 115.
So the trick is get someone else to wear them down a little bit without the guard, and then when they get down to 115, put the guard back on, and then you can safely use them.
Yeah,
kids or something would be fine.
Or just use them on a sander, get them down to shape first.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah,
just trying a glass jar or something.
No, just do it by hand, just so it's like faceted, and then put them on the angle grinder. Just
yeah. I mean that's it. I mean I have used the pillar drill to do a little bit of turning before, just on a soft metal, because it was just a tiny piece of rod, and the lathe over there, I've only got the one thing to do it with, and I was like, right, it will fit in the drill bit though, so it's
the
just
taper just falls out.
But I said, in principle, it was fine because it wasn't a very, very big meaty thing I was doing, but it was just the tool resting that I kind of had to improvise.
Of course, yeah. Clump a block of wood down or something.
Yeah. It's essentially, I just sort of stacked lots of bits of wood, and I was like, okay, this is the same thing, isn't it? Really, except it's that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and the absence of thrust bearings and.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again,
climb up on your workbench and lie down so that you're the right way for the.
I could have done it that way. Yes, just reorientate things. But yeah, I mean, like the pillar drill, I got secondhand as well. So that was like 30 quid. So it's one of those things. I'm like, well, if it goes, I've had it for 10 years now, and 30 quid is not so bad.
I quite like one of the Bosch ones, the digital speed control
one. Yeah.
I've heard a couple of people say that there's quite a lot of play in them, though.
Yeah, from what I understand, they're not aimed at the precision that you would want. They're more aimed at draining the wallets of people
which is a bit of a shame.
Are not necessarily
the prestige
worried about. Well, I was trying to be diplomatic in saying, folks of a certain age who, you know, are getting towards the end of their working life, have a bit of surplus cash and want to just start, you know, tinkering in the workshop with something a bit different. You know, it's that's the kind of their target market for them. That's my understanding anyway. Might be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're nice bits of kit in terms of, you know, you've got kind of the adjustable depth, which is controllable. You've got the variable speed without belts. Because, I mean, let's face it, who changes the belts on their belt-driven
You could change the
variable
belts.
speed? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever does it.
No. I
You
said,
stick,
well,
you stick them in the middle,
yeah.
or you keep it. You know, if you're only doing wood, you put them on high speed, but you just keep it on there because they're too much fuss to undo the tension, move it down, put the tension back, close the lid. It's just too much fuss.
Yeah. Well, when I got this thing, I just felt like right off the bat, I wanted to cut out I had a big old circular kind of cutting piece, and it was about 100 mil or so. And first thing it did was just go and stick. And I was like, "Hello, Mr. eBay, you've sold me something crap." And I was like, "Well, I suppose I should Google it." And it turns out, I did. That's the only time I have ever moved the belt, and I haven't moved it back in about 7 years. So it chews the wood up like I want it.
Yeah. Down in my sort of bottom of the garden workshop, it's like an old brick, kind of
House.
old brick outhousey type thing with a coal shed built onto it and stuff. But it's not an outhouse as such because it has it has this kind of brick hearth in the corner with a copper or bronze bowl set into it.
So scullery, probably.
Yeah. So it's you can build a fire under the bowl, and apparently it's for like when people used to repair their own shoes and things, and would melt down tars and glues and stuff in this bowl. You know,
not a laundry scullery.
No, apparently not. This is
because the tinkerage was the scullery for the house. So when they built it, so the tinkerage is kind of half of what was originally built, and on the other half was split into two bits. One of which was the coal store, one of which was the toilet, the outside toilet, because this was built before kind of toilets were, all houses had toilets inside, and the bit that is the tinkerage. There's one corner. There's still the remains of the chimney's still on the roof, but it's capped off.
Yeah.
So there's a chimney. There was a fireplace, and there was originally a Belfast sink, big ceramic deep sink. Which was used for doing the washing.
And this is like it's almost like a champagne bucket type size, but just set into the top. It's not like a removable thing. It's very, very clearly for heating whatever was in this bowl. And my wife said the other day that one of the elderly neighbours was explaining to her about sort of glues and tars and stuff like that for when people are repairing their old shoes and things. But all that to say that it's a sloping roof. It's not particularly high or big. But I ended up buying the really big Titan pillar drill from Screwfix years ago. And because of the configuration of the way it builds all the benches, it doesn't actually fit anywhere other than on this little stone platform. And I just haven't got round to sorting it out properly. So the one bench that it's deep enough for, the ceiling's too low for it, so it's can't go there. And the other bench where there is enough ceiling height, there isn't enough depth on the workbench, so it can't go on that. So it literally has to go in this one spot. It's the only place it can fit, and it's a reasonable height. But then you can't actually adjust the bed height because there's another workbench in the way of where the handle is to go up and down. So it's set at this one height. So if I need to drill anything in thinner plates, I've got to stack up stuff underneath it and then clamp down on top to be able to drill through smaller plates. Got like a 100 mil throw on it.
So the space existed before you decided to put things in it, and I remember when we built, and I built this, and I was like, "Yeah, great! Cannot wait to get everything in." And one of the first things I bought was the bandsaw, and it's a big one, just a Shepak one, same as Brothers Make have, but that corner over there is the only place it can go. Because like as soon as I put everything in, I was like, I can't move in here. Because I just thought like, I put everything on wheels, like a 600 deep thing, and I was like, that's half of the room. It's like, and then you buy more things. Like, what have I done?
Yeah,
it's so true.
I had a benchtop pillar drill given to me when we were in our last house, and it needed quite a lot of work doing to it, which I never did, other than kind of one of the standard sort of three arm handle on the side. One of those was always loose, so if you grabbed that one by mistake, you kind of when you pull down, it would come out in your hand. So you just had to make sure that you kind of used the right one. At one point, it had been epoxied in, but the epoxy had perished and it came out. And when we moved, I had it in the tinkerage for a while, and it was just like it took up so much room, and I ended up getting rid of it. And instead, I literally have a little drill press with a Woolworths electric drill in it. But it's got variable speed. Yeah, it's got variable speed. You kind of have to lock it on. You kind of have to get the speed. The little dial on the trigger, so you get the speed up. And then you kind of have to pull the trigger and then press kind of the lock on, and then kind of push down to your work. Now it's a load of fuss, but it doesn't take up much room, which thankfully is a good thing. Although it's a little bit wonky. I broke a bit on the draw.
I'm guessing that there's more. Run out on that.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of play. Yeah, the Bosch would be an improvement, definitely.
Well, I've always seen what like the version you said, the old Wolfcraft pulley lever thing that you put a standard drill in. On Facebook Marketplace, I keep seeing like lathes that were drill powered, and in principle, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
my dad still does. He does a lot of turning on one of those now.
I've got the bits from a very old Wolf one down in the shed, which kind of acquired from an estate. Somebody passed on, and it needs. I mean, the cable on the drill needs replacing. It's like, I mean, it's a nice little project. I mean, to give you an idea of the age of the drill, it's shiny. The whole drill is shiny. I was going to say silver, but it's not made of silver. It's kind of that kind of
metallic
metal. There's no paint on the entire thing. There never was any paint on it. It's just that kind of sort of shiny thing.
It's an on-off switch.
Yep. No variable speed. It's just like
my dad's old drill.
I think it's reverse though. On I think it might.
You got a reverse. Yeah, that's quite advanced, I suppose. I remember dad's one was just went one direction. It was very good at doing it, but. Depending what you were doing, like when I got it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to cope with this because I couldn't get the bloody thing out sometimes. And
is that because I was just thinking about that? I've still got a performance power 710 watt, a SDS or not SDS drill, but a proper mains powered drill down in that same workshop in a case with that kind of intention of. It'll be handy when I need to drill something properly, and then thinking now of like the battery powered drills that I've got probably actually put out more than the 710 watts get from this, and the batteries probably actually last better than the mains will down in that workshop anyway. So something well, why the hell have I still got it? It's just I definitely don't still need it at all. I've got an SDS battery powered SDS drill. It's more powerful than the plug-in mains one I've got. So
I've still got a Bosch Hammer SDS Plus, which is phenomenal, mains powered, and I've used it so many times. I mean, it's hard work to use now, but it's such a good tool when you need. I mean, like the tinkerage, the bricks of that are engineering bricks, so they are rock hard. Yeah, you've got to use good quality bits, and you need my cordless drill, even with hammer mode, would never touch it, even when it was new. But the SDS, stick a good quality Bosch SDS bit in there with the one I can't remember what they call it. It's got the kind of the masonry bit, instead of being kind of just angled, it's slightly rounded.
It's got the slight lobes.
And that just
the
eats through. Yeah, just absolutely eats through even the engineering bricks. So I kind of like a few times I thought it's a bit tricky to use, but then sometimes you kind of think, yeah, but sometimes you need that kind of the roto stop hammer action to chip away some concrete off something, or to make a hole, or but yeah, fixing down the greenhouse, yeah, fixing it to the floor. Yeah, just like
Yeah,
yes, I
a
can
bit more
hammer in,
brunt.
I can drill into reinforced concrete to put expansion bolts in.
Yeah.
So my old boss had an old Hilti SDS thing, and it was secondhand when he got it. And so for the 2.5 years I was with him, he's like, it did finally die, but he was like, I think it's about 40 years old. He said, but it kept going. It was amazing.
Donkey machines.
Yeah, well, the learning curve of because when we first got our house, and we went and bought like a 12-pound drill, with a battery one from not Asda, Argos. And I put up my first
Challenge
shelf.
Extreme.
I was so happy. Yes, that one. And I remember sort of like, I'm just put my shelf, and this is going to be so. And I was there like, I thinking, didn't know any better. Thinking like, it takes 20 minutes to normally do this sort of thing, doesn't it, to drill one hole? And then my father-in-law bought me like my first proper powered drill. It was a Screwfix Titan one, and it was brilliant. And apart from when it just suddenly stopped, but obviously Screwfix were really good with their guarantees. So over the course of the year, I ended up upgrading it to like an Erbauer. But like the difference is like, oh yeah, this is what it's meant to be like. I feel like my dad now.
I'd like to think I've got well beyond where my dad was. He was not scared of having to go at anything. Yeah, he built like a wooden extension on the house. We'd all do jobs on the thing, but he'd always use using totally the wrong tools because he just used whatever he had or could afford, and usually wasn't anywhere near the best, and was second hand. So I've said a few times that one of the most important things I learned about DIY from my dad was get the right tool. And I learned that because he never had the right tools.
Yes.
And it wasn't, and mostly it was just because of, it just couldn't afford them.
Yeah, budget, I suppose.
It's just budget. I mean, that's why he fit. Yeah, he wasn't a mechanic, but he did lots of quite big work. Yeah, I can remember him taking the head off the car several times as a kid. And it's just replacing gaskets.
Fix it from the first time
because he couldn't afford to take it to the garage to do it.
Yeah,
it was as simple as that. Yeah, it was purely out of necessity. It's not that he liked working on cars. He was not a petrol head. I mean, he did like driving. I mean, he'd driven the amount of stuff he'd driven and types of vehicles. Yeah, fire engines, ambulances. Yeah, he'd driven big stuff. Not really. He wasn't really for speed. But he had, there weren't many things that he hadn't driven in kind of ordinary day-to-day type vehicles. He'd never been in a racing car, but Land Rovers, Jeeps, army trucks, ambulances, fire engines, ladder platforms because he was in the fire service for a while. All those sort of things. He could drive all those, but he wasn't really a petrol head. He didn't take apart a car because he wanted to take apart a car. Yes, we did. So I mean, a few people lately in the Makers Waffle group been talking about kind of maybe doing like a van conversion.
Yes,
and it's a popular thing now. I mean, he did that in late 70s, early 80s. He did a couple of different van conversions, what we would now call a day van. Where you kind of you've got a little kitchen area. And you've got somewhere where, you could sleep in it overnight. And he did several times in both of them. 2 or 3. But again, mostly it was out of kind of, again, necessity. And it was, it turned out they were our only vehicles as well. So it was just like,
they'd break down. Some people have those things as like an extra vehicle. It's like, well, this is my work vehicle. This is the nice one I drive the kids around in, and this is the project one, which is fine if you got that. But if you can, I think the only way I could ever have one of those sort of mobile van home things is if it was also the way I got around. But then that might change what I do with it, because it's like, I don't want to get the carpet dirty or something like that.
Yeah, I think I think similar here. I mean, we do have 2 cars, and we live in not a wildly remote village, but there isn't a huge amount of stuff in the village. You do basically need a vehicle, or you have to wait a long time for buses and things. So we do have 2. One so my wife can go to work, and then one so I can do other things, whether it's taking kids to school or various other kind of activities, or just going to get things, do things, doctor's appointments or whatever. And so 2 vehicles are a thing. Would I want to kind of have a van at some point? Well, yeah. I mean, the kind of whole kind of cost of fuel type things. I can see an application of having a van. Yes, particularly when perhaps we're empty nesters and the kids have gone. But it'd be nice to be able to maybe have something that's big enough. Yeah, we can go and sleep in it. It needs to be big enough. So it's got kind of some more facilities. So it's got maybe it's got a toilet, it's got a shower. But it'd be great to be able to go somewhere, but be flexible enough where you can kind of go, right, oh, those pallets I talked about earlier in the show. Yep, I can go and grab 10 of them at a time.
Yes. And also, you don't want to advertise if you've got a vehicle like that, because I've only got a Kangoo, which is sort of like, a pretend van. But as soon as I got that, I made loads more friends than I thought I had. Like, oh, Daren, I hear you've got something with a big boot.
Pick things up.
What are you doing this weekend? Oh, nothing. Why? Oh, nothing. It's just what are the measurements?
Will it fit a free freezer?
Yes.
Yeah, an American free freezer.
We did because we're gearing up for the festival next week, and my old car, which was a kind of usual festival car, I built a roof rack, which is basically just like the top of a pallet. But I built it and then realized how much like a pallet it looked, so everyone just calls it pallet. But it was again out of necessity. It's like cobbled together parts to make the whole roof rack. How it actually fitted onto the roof rails and stuff. So it ended up being that the bars, the roof bars, were just 3x2s, but all screwed into the bodged metal brackets that I'd cobbled together out of some roof rack bars that we'd been given for an old Volvo. It was like, these are going to go in the skip unless you take them and do something with them. So adapt them to fit on my Honda and stuff. But when I got rid of the car, we took the pallet off it, and then now we've fitted it this weekend to the new festival car.
Cool.
But that's basically just been again just bodged with other bits of wood and sinking, hidden fasteners in and all that kind of stuff to make it fixed to the thing. But yeah, it in and amongst all that, a mate of ours was like, I've got this couch to go and pick up for my flat. I was going to borrow a van from my friend's garage, but it'd be covered in crap. And would it go on the roof rack?
Oh, tell you what,
come on, let's go and get it. So yeah, just like ratchet strapping this couch to the top of the car, just as the heavens opened.
I said, I don't know if it's a myth, but I always liked that story about when they, is it the Americans wanted to invent a pen that could work in space, and they spent thousands making it, and then Russia just used a pencil, and that's always been one of my favorite stories, whether it's true or not.
It's not.
No,
it's not. We did actually talk about that on a
really episode
as well. It's it there's quite a few examples of that throughout history, I think, of very similar sort of stories of that kind of thing. I always love that kind of stuff that like we said before, the callback to storytelling. That's that whole setup of that Fisher Space pen thing.
It's like well, it doesn't. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's what they say.
Yeah,
well, yeah. It is a good point, and I think, unfortunately, nowadays, of course, we live in a world where some elements of media, whether that's mainstream or social, we're actually not even going to let good ideas get in the way of telling lies so that we can generate.
We live in a
income.
world where Snopes exists.
Yes.
Yes, it has to. Yes,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has that been grabbing anyone's attention by any chance? Just to
Yeah, things like
do a Stephen Erasmus.
Yeah, so yeah, we've reached that point. Yeah, so our attention grabbers, anything that's been kind of grabbing our attention, whether it's past or future or present.
I wrote some things. I
Brilliant.
came prepared.
Can be anything. Can be more than one. We don't do just one like some shows.
No, that's
We land multiple
things I'm trying to concentrate at the moment. It should have my attention, but I haven't devoted much to it. I was basically. My sister sent me an advert for B&Q saying they wanted product testers or ambassadors, and and I sent a ridiculous video as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like I think the principle was there, but the editing was quite bad. Anyway, they said, "Oh yeah, okay, cool, we'd like you to do that." So I have to basically select a product from quite a limited catalog. But I think I'm probably going to fall down either the Sander or the SDS thing because those are things I know I could immediately use, and they won't be too complicated in terms of me reviewing them. Some of the products they have, like paint or flooring samples and things like that, I could get a ton of dirt, but I wouldn't know how to review it.
It was dirty.
Yeah,
it filled the hole.
So other attention grabbers. A couple of YouTube channels I'd like to sort of like promote to anyone that is interested in it. But the Fish Locker is just a foraging channel, but it's also this guy. He's is in Cornwall, just charming. Just watch him go out for the day. It's like, oh yeah, see that, you can eat that. Now this is what he's really knowledgeable. And I've identified things that I didn't know about in our local area since watching these. Not that I'd eat them because it's quite a dirty harbour, but yeah. Really interesting channel to watch. And he just sort of like, he watch him go and say like, this is a good size thing for this. Don't do this, do that. Sit there, watch him eat his cook and eat the food. But it's one of my sort of favorite little, I don't know, like it reminds me of The Good Life, which is a favorite TV show. But it's just let it wash over you. Just nice little charming channel to watch.
If not far from you is the guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Atomic Shrimp.
Atomic Shrimp. Yes, he's not too far.
Because he's not far from you. Because he does a whole mix of things. I love his channel. I mean, anything from scam baiting to foraging, and making as well. It's really quite fascinating. Some of the things that he does, and when he kind of goes, I'm going to go out foraging, and he goes for a walk, and it's like a 40-minute video of him going for a walk.
Yes,
and then just stopping and foraging along the way. And he takes a little camping stove and cooks up something.
I just find it, amazing. I mean, like, it might be essential viewing in the coming future. Who knows?
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like when you used to, like you were saying, just nip outside, go get some taters or whatever. But like, right, okay, sorry, it's oysters for dinner again.
Yeah. I wish. You said the other one?
Oh yeah, the other fella is Studston Studio. I hope I'm saying that right. Studston Studio. Basically, the one I found was Howl's Moving Castle, and he basically makes these models out of anything he's got around, and he saves all these old toys and things, and specifically, like, he seems to use a lot of Gundam parts. But the amount of things he finds that somehow magically fit together, like, he'll pick something up and go like, oh yeah, look, that's clearly the engine for one of these things I'm doing. It's like, I don't see it, but then
fashion almost.
Yeah.
Nice.
Really recommend the thing. Like, he did Howl's Moving Castle was the one I just watched. Prior to that was the Mario Odyssey. Yeah, Mario Odyssey hat.
Oh,
and it's
nice.
It's just watching him getting all this stuff and you glue it together, and but the narration is brilliant. It's just he tells the story as he's doing it. It's not one of those fast sort of like clicky things. It's practically real time almost. But the way he tells the story is really involves you. Yeah, hands down, one of the best things I've seen in ages.
It amazes me how some people can kind of sort of see junk
Yeah.
and put it together. It's
Yeah.
like Tom Peterson.
Yeah.
Reuse, refuse, reuse.
Yes.
Refuse
Yes.
reuse.
I mean, it just the stuff he sort of puts together, whether welding or bolting it or screwing it together, and it just takes a bunch of junk and turns it into a sculpture, but whether it's a person or whether it's a thing. I mean, I've got one of his ray guns, and it's just
Oh yes,
one
I
of
saw
my
that.
favorite. It's just one of my favorite things. And at the moment, it's in the tinkerage because I want to make a cradle for it, so I can actually kind of put it up on the wall
Yeah.
behind me, above kind of there, or
Display
might
it.
go that side. But I want it up on the wall, but it's how do some people who they look at things and just go,
Yeah.
that's an engine for something.
It's an amazing skill, because I look at something and say like, oh, I can clean it, or restore it. Or like, I know that this is the way it's meant to look. I can't make something necessarily look like something else. So.
I think sometimes I can see something and go, oh, that reminds me of a engine. But it's when they kind of take multiple things, and I can maybe do it with kind of one thing, or sometimes two things.
Yeah,
And there is that kind of element from when a kid, you kind of put things together to make ray guns or whatever. But the depth of artistry of putting together a multitude of things,
Yeah, definitely.
painting it, and adding just those little greeblies and tweaks.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, after he's stuck it all together, he paints it as well. And I have not got that skill level.
Definitely something I'd like to have a go at. But I'm going to get rid of a pile of the junk, so I won't have the bits to do it with. Well, I could keep them, and then I would. But
No.
Yeah. And these are real thoughts. Those are real thoughts
from the tinkerage.
Yeah. Yeah, those are real thoughts from the tinkerage. If I get rid of some of the stuff that I've spent decades acquiring, then I won't have it. If I get to a point where I'm making a project that requires those bits or could use those bits, even though the rational part of my brain knows that I can go and buy things or go to car boot sales or go to charity shops and pick up other things where I can
or
then cannibalize.
Swing that arm the other way, bash it into the 3D printer, and then just, I can make the things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that. Have you got any other ones, Darren, or was that it?
Well, yeah, the rest. I think they've come up in conversation. I was saying like, so yeah, ideally I want to put somewhere for the chop saw. I'm working on the vaulting horse footstool for my uncle.
Nice.
Yeah, and then and in the background, then I've got there's a bit of Singer sewing table behind me.
I spotted that wheel and it looked very familiar.
Yeah, so it's but I'm trying it a different way this time because previously they've all been quite good nick, and I've just sort of dusted them and spray painted them. But this one is gross, so I've taken it apart, which took some convincing. Because
yeah, I can imagine.
I was just sitting there with this big screwdriver, not doing anything for a very long time, and I was like, I'm sure there's a tool that could do better than this. And I remembered somewhere I had some mall grips, and after that it was really easy. Now I've got to clean it. That's the bit I'm not really looking forward to.
Yeah,
let's put it back together as well at some point.
Yeah, I got to. There's not many screws. That's all of them.
That's not bad.
No, I mean, like, they kind of look like they'll only go in one place. So
it's just a 3D jigsaw puzzle.
It's when you got one left over at the end. That's and no holes.
Yes, we can make holes. It's fine.
Jamie, what about you? What's been grabbing your attention?
Festival prep, but also our good friends Ellen, Caro, and Heidi not Gatecrashed, but were invited to join our good friends at the 2/3 Focused podcast as well.
Yes.
to kind of follow on the sort of similar discussions in the area of trying to raise awareness
episode 20,
for,
yes.
yeah,
A similarly difficult listen.
yes,
Even though three different people.
Exactly.
Yeah, the three
but they did
guests we
a
had.
stellar job. So yeah, very, very proud of all three of those, and for the boys for inviting them on and tackling that, because it's something we need to raise more awareness of and do better as a group of dudes and non-men. No, not non-men. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do,
Slightly
and we
tired.
do, and that it needs to be. I mean, there's been some things lately, kind of just in the general media and social media, where it kind of as men trying to do the right things, when you kind of sort of stand up and go, yeah, oi, that's rubbish, and
Call
that's
out your
not the way
brothers,
we should
call
be.
out your peers.
Yeah,
We need to do better.
Absolutely.
And we need to help each others to do better. To know, some of us don't realise when we might say or do something that's not right.
yeah, and particularly with
like
younger, with boys and young men, they need to see good examples of.
They need to see good examples, but older generations as well. Things that aren't, that might once have been appropriate that aren't now. And that's one of the things that is a difficulty in a community like the maker community, where we interact, but we sometimes forget context. There's a difference in saying something in a group of close friends or saying it in a public forum. It's things like that we just need to reflect on a little more, I think. No, very, very proud of our friends there. How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing yours?
This week, what's been grabbing my attention? The Pomeroni 10-year anniversary sale brought my attention this week, and emptied my wallet of a few hard-earned pounds.
Yeah, it did.
And might again, because it's going on till the 31st of August, and I've got a couple of ideas I've got a project in mind that could involve some electronics, and there's at least one product they sell which might make that a real possibility.
You should do some space to put these new projects in.
Well, there is
You've
that
got
as
loads
well.
of space.
Yes, yeah, I will have. We've got 2 weeks of the summer holidays left, or a week and a bit of the summer holidays left. Once that happens and everyone's back to work and school, then I am going to have more time, so I can actually get on with sort of doing some things. But that's for future attention grabbing. Two other things that grabbed my attention this week. Today, you brought this to my attention, even though I hadn't realised it, and then I watched it separately. Tom Scott, on his second channel.
I was going to shout that out.
Go.
I figured you would probably be shouting it out as well. So
Tom Scott Go. He and
Gavin from
Slow-Mo Guys did a session. They had a bit of a competition between themselves, and they had the hot ones, hot sauces to work through.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious.
It
for all
was
the wrong reasons.
Rather than being like the interview format you'd get in Hot Ones, it was estimation questions, and the loser of that question had to try some of the hot sauce,
which was on nachos rather than on some meat.
Yeah, tortilla chips. So
it was cheaper.
they would put a dollop on. It's well worth checking out. It's,
it's
hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious in all best possible taste. And
okay.
The other thing I've been this week, I've been watching season 2 and I'm partway through season 3 of Blown Away on Netflix, which is the glass blowing reality competition.
I saw season 1. I haven't seen the other.
Yeah, season 2 they bring in international. So season 2 there's a Brit and an Australian, I think.
It's a good
Australian
series,
season 3. Yeah, season 2. I mean, they're short programs, which I think is good. So they're only half an hour, there is a bit of tension because it's glass and glass breaks sometimes just
Yeah.
because. So there's a bit of tension with that. And it's kind of almost, I started watching it. I mean, I'd been wanting to watch it anyway, but thinking of okay, the last couple of episodes we were talking a lot about art because there is a lot of that kind of art type discussion here. Why have you made this? Well, and there's kind of a whole kind of art way of talking about the reasons behind something. So it was kind of a bit of a fascination really with that and to see it. But I like seeing making programs, and it's a making program. So, but I found, I'm partway through. I think I've seen 3 of season 3. Season 2 was okay. Yeah, it was good. I mean, there's some interesting characters as you get on reality TV programs. Yeah, people are just a bit too much. But there are other people that are kind of all right, and you kind of go, yeah, I like you, but you just keep saying stuff because you think it's going to get you.
Well, yeah, they need the
noticed
crazy
or whatever, and you keep contradicting yourself. And you've just said this, and that's definitely not true because you demonstrated that you weren't that good. Yeah, that sort of thing. So you get that kind of thing, but that's reality TV type programs, isn't it? But yeah, worth a watch, I think, if you like kind of making on TV because there's not enough of it.
Agreed.
Yeah, so
Yes,
I'll
more
finish
of
that
that
over the next
stuff.
couple of days. Yeah,
Cool.
Daren, where can people find you?
They can find me mainly on Instagram, on at Cooper's Workbench. I have ambitions of making a YouTube video again.
Yes, because you have made some before.
I have made some before, but this has been like my Mr. Holland's opus, and it's died on me twice. So eventually there will be a video, and then it will be the same handle as well, Cooper's Workbench.
Cool. I think those links are already in place on YouTube, so people can go and find those and subscribe and give you a few more subscribers so you can get that custom URL.
Oh yeah.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I could put it on my wall.
You have to make it yourself, but yeah.
Well, it's a project. Yeah.
Exactly. Plenty of people make themselves a kind of a 10
Play button or a
1,000 play button. Yeah.
Oh, I could just make one of those. You don't have to have them, do you? No. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you should make one. Yeah, make one. Make one. Good video. On that note, I think we'll say goodbye to folks, and we'll
thank
see
you for joining
week.
us, Darren.
Yeah.
It's been a
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone else who was in the chat.
Yeah, some good chat tonight. So.
Yeah. So, bye, folks. See you next week.
Ciao, Bella.